Didn't Lia charge too far ahead? The healer had to run straight into the attack range of magical creatures just to keep her alive. Wasn't Phyllis from the Noble Academy in command? The Vanguard can't hold aggro at all. The monsters kept chasing the mage instead. TCH. As expected of the Holy Mage, Aiko from the Holy Light Church. Casting spells while dodging attacks, like it's nothing. She took out 2 of those lizard monsters solo. The gathered adventurers watching the live feed from the World Tree had mixed reactions. There was no denying the individual strength of the Snow Goose adventure team. Aiko's chanting speed was astounding, and her light arrows blazed across the battlefield with divine precision. Corona, the heavy-armored wall of the front line, held firm like a fortress. Even under the onslaught of magical beasts, not a scratch landed on him. And then there was Lia, the team leader, a little reckless, yes, but still formidable. She'd cut down a lizard on her own, a feat few swordsmen of her level could confidently replicate. But praise quickly gave way to criticism. The Snow Goose's command and coordination were abysmal. Once the formation broke, the team scattered like frightened cats. There was no support structure, no shared tactics. Everyone simply fought on instinct. Phyllis, their healer and acting commander, started strong with a few quick orders. But soon, he was too overwhelmed trying to keep Lia alive to manage anyone else. Heavy Hammer warrior Olu had been severely injured in the chaos. Frankly, one adventurer muttered, "It's a miracle no one died." Someone else added, "Didn't Snow Goose reach the 8th floor without a single casualty when Linda, the Eye of Wisdom, was leading? Why'd they even replace him with Phyllis?" A good question. Command was the keystone of any team. Replacing your tactical lead mid-ascent without cause was reckless, especially someone like Linda, who'd led them since the 1st floor. A refined male elf nearby gave a knowing smile. You probably don't know. Rumor has it Linda got caught fooling around with the team's mage. Lia kicked him out on the spot. No. I heard it was because he had a date lined up with ISA, the Ice Flower team's leader. You're both wrong. I read a tabloid that said he threw a private party and didn't invite Lia. Thanks to certain unscrupulous journalists, Linda's story had grown wilder with every retelling. Just then, on the live screen, a soft buzz came from the sensor ladybug hanging at Lia's waist. It glowed golden, a golden advice offering. Everyone fell silent, eyes locking on the shimmering message that now hovered in the air. After watching Snow Goose flounder, I'm even more confident in recruiting Linda into the Ice Flower Adventure team. Smirking face. The message was signed, clearly, by ISA. Gasps swept the guild hall. The silver-haired swordswoman had openly taunted her rival and praised the very teammate Lia had cast out. "Issa, you damned shameless." Lia's furious scream echoed across the Adventurers Guild. She hurled the ladybug to the ground, its tiny wings flailing in confusion. The insult hit hard. Everyone could tell. ISA's sly dig not only targeted Lia's pride, but underlined a painful truth. If Linda were still with them, Snow Goose might have reached the 11th floor intact. Face flushed red with fury and humiliation, Lia snatched up her teleportation stone and vanished from the secret realm without even collecting her loot. A hush fell over the crowd. Sparrow District, evening. The aging street lamps flickered, casting soft halos over cracked cobblestone. As Linda and his small group arrived near the guild, they spotted adventurers filtering out, chatting animatedly. He picked up a few words, Snow Goose Adventure Team. Linda froze. Lulu did too. She, because she was searching for someone tied to that name. He, because he just heard Olu had been hurt. Olu had been his closest comrade in the team. Damn it, Lia. I warned you not to rush ahead. Frustration simmered beneath Linda's calm exterior. It was one thing for Lia to gamble with her own life, but she was dragging others down with her. The very dream that sparked Snow Goose's creation, reaching the top of the world tree without losing a single teammate, had been tossed aside. Still, Linda could only sigh from the sidelines now. He was no longer part of that team. He could only hope they'd learn from this. As the adventurers drew nearer, Linda quickly ducked into a corner, pretending to relieve himself like a shady drunk. Lulu wrinkled her nose in disgust and turned away. Once the group passed, Linda straightened and stepped back onto the road, the chatter fading behind them. He made a mental note to check on Olu. As for Aiko, maybe it was time to speak with her again. It would look like poaching, but after Leah's suicidal stunt, Linda no longer felt the need to be polite. Better to steal a teammate than watch them die. When they reached the Adventurers Guild, it was close to 6. The line was long, curling like a sleepy serpent. They joined quietly, but the line wasn't moving. Raised voices echoed from the front. Cutting in line. This is discrimination against beastmen. Look, everyone, this human girl's trying to push us aside. What next? You gonna evict us from the city when you hoard all the hero stones? A girl's voice replied, incredulous. What? You were the one cutting. I pulled you back in line. I don't care. You're discriminating against beastmen. Apologize. A towering minotaur, dark-skinned, muscular, piercings adorning his lips, roared furiously at a freckled human girl. The crowd grew restless. Some sided with the girl, while others, fearful of being labeled racist, held their tongues. Since the Pact of Unity between races 1,000 years ago, discrimination against beastmen had become a social and political landmine. Any perceived slight risked massive backlash. Naturally, the other beastmen in line backed the Minotaur. Yeah, apologize, human. Disrespecting beastmen? You'll be fine till you're begging. No tolerance for prejudice. Even the guild's staff hesitated. No one wanted to touch a discrimination case. Linda, frowning, shook his head. No wonder the line wasn't moving. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Tensions between beastmen and humans had been escalating ever since the announcement of the Hero Stones. A fear was growing. If humans monopolized the Hero Stones, would they dominate the future as well? On the streets today alone, Linda had witnessed 3 scuffles tied to race. He glanced sideways at Lulu, curious. What does a werewolf girl think of all this? But she remained silent, her face unreadable. Linda sighed. The climb to the top of the world tree wasn't just about strength. It would also mean surviving the fractures forming on the ground below. Lulu silently stepped out of the line. Her expression was unreadable as she walked toward the commotion without a word. Linda instinctively raised a hand to stop her, but then hesitated. Was this Lulu really the same righteous, warm-hearted girl he remembered from the game? 3 years had passed. She was no longer a player's companion, but a witch, an existence bound by contract to darkness. Had she changed? Linda chose to remain a bystander and watch. As Lulu approached, her presence alone shifted the atmosphere. A cold, commanding aura radiated from her like frost in winter. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Those nearby sensed a pressure leak from her body, unintentional, yet undeniable. Her strength was high, and it showed. Even the humans who had sided with the freckled girl instinctively backed away. The Minotaur, Molly, lit up with a grin. "Miss Werewolf," he called, puffing out his chest. "That human girl insulted beastmen. You'll help me set things right, won't you?" He thought he'd secured a powerful ally. What came next was not the support he expected, but a sound that cracked across the guild like thunder. Smack! A slap, so fast no one saw it coming, landed full force across Molly's face, sending his hulking frame spinning once before he landed squarely on his hooves. His right cheek ballooned instantly with a swollen welt. "Get out," Lulu said, her tone flat and cold. "WH what?" Molly stammered, still cradling his cheek. She didn't repeat herself. Instead, she narrowed her eyes, gaze sharp as a wolf's fawn. "I said, don't disturb the line. Leave." In that moment, Molly, descendant of warriors and beasts, felt the ancient fear of his kind. It was as if he'd been dropped into a den of predators. And Lulu? She was the alpha, the apex. Without another word, Molly turned and fled the Adventurers Guild, tail tucked. A murmur of shock spread through the crowd. One black bear beast man, larger and higher ranked than Molly, bared his teeth. "Why do you side with humans? You're a beast man too." But the second Lulu's crimson gaze flicked to him, the bear fell silent. Sweat drenched his back, and he quickly looked away. She wasn't a wild wolf. She was something far more dangerous. None of the beastmen dared challenge her further. They stepped aside. Lulu returned to the line as if nothing had happened. Linda gave her a subtle thumbs up. Nicely done. I just hate bullies, she replied with a calm shrug. Behind them, the atmosphere shifted. The human adventurers cheered and whispered. A beastman girl with morals, what a rarity. Werewolves are just built different. Unlike those minotaur and boar types. If all beastmen were like her, we wouldn't have so many problems. Lulu scowled at the growing attention. Her voice was sharp as a whip. Keep your mouth shut. The guild hall went silent. She was beautiful, yes, but clearly not someone who tolerated nonsense. One adventurer noticed Linda standing beside her. After a string of rumors in the papers, Linda's reputation as the ultimate pervert had spread like wildfire. Now, here he was, accompanied by two striking girls. Yo, Lynn. Linda coughed pointedly. Lovely weather, isn't it? The man blinked at the sudden threat in Linda's smile. Why, yeah, great weather. He glanced at Lulu. So, are you here to form a team? Linda replied simply. A ripple passed through the onlookers. Form a team? Many had assumed Linda would join Iceflower, especially after ISA publicly praised him and hinted she wanted to recruit him. But now he was starting his own group? And with two girls at his side, one graceful and cold, the other wild and untamed? An adventurer whistled low. Lucky bastard. Lucky, huh? Linda groaned internally. One has no sense of subtlety. The other might murder me if I breathe wrong. Whispers and chuckles circled them. Many were assuming this was Linda's new harem. Lulu's expression turned icy. Some adventurers let their tongues loose, muttering vulgar thoughts and laughing under their breath. A howl pierced the hall. A whoa! Everyone flinched. Magic surged through the air, thick and biting like frost. Lulu's magic aura exploded outward, silencing the entire line. The air grew heavier. Her strength, her sheer presence, smothered every whisper like snow over fire. Those who dared speak filth backed away quietly, some even choosing to leave and return another day. The crowd instinctively gave Linda and his party a wide berth, half a meter of respectful distance. None dared get too close. It seemed she only allowed Linda near her. A few adventurers exchanged wary glances. Some whispered, maybe the rumors are true. Maybe Linda really is the ultimate pervert. Half an hour later, the group finally reached the registration counter. The guild staff handed over 3 forms to fill out: name, level, and class. Linda scribbled down Healing Mage and only wrote Lynn for his name. The staff didn't comment. Identity confirmation came from a signature and palm scan anyway. He tried to peek at Lulu's paper. She immediately shielded it and shot him a glare. He raised both hands in surrender. Once all 3 had finished, the staff produced a white treasure bead, a level, and class detection artifact. Touch it one by one. Linda went first. The bead glowed emerald, recovery series. Mist swirled inside, forming an arcane number, 8. Level 8. It matched his form, stamped and approved. Next was Kaphne. The bead lit blue, damage series. Mist twisted, then formed, 8. Another approval. A few onlookers overheard. Linda had reset his class and regained 8 levels already. Impressive. Most adventurers took weeks, if not months, to reach that. Linda said nothing, just smiled. Even Lulu turned slightly surprised. Change classes? He used to be a level 15 healer? Does he know how dangerous that is above level 10? Past level 20, your success rate drops to nearly 0. She regarded him with a newfound sliver of respect. That kind of risk required courage or madness. Next, called the staffer. Lulu stepped forward. Her hand touched the treasure bead. A pulse of deep crimson light flared inside. The color of the warrior series, but darker, heavier. The swirling mist formed not 1, but 2 runes. 25. Gasps rose in the room. Level 25. Even seasoned rock-level adventurers rarely reach that height. Just 5 levels short of the star tier, the elite circle at the summit of adventuring. Silence fell over the guild hall. This girl wasn't just strong. she was a monster. Even the staff member paused, eyes wide, before finally stamping the paper. Linda raised an eyebrow. "You've been busy." Lulu folded her arms, her expression neutral. She said nothing, but Linda could tell. He wasn't the only one with secrets.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Even though Linda had anticipated it, he couldn't help but give a sidelong glance. Lulu's face remained calm, as she quickly withdrew her hand after the test, seemingly not wanting too many people to see her level. Linda thought to himself, he had kicked Lulu out of the team 3 years ago, and Lulu had changed her profession to witch, starting from scratch, and had reached level 25 in just 3 years. This speed was bewildering. His rapid leveling was due to cheats, but Lulu, as a pure local, reaching level 25 in 3 years was almost like forcing the growth of a fallen insect. The repeated outbreaks of pollution had also caused the young girl considerable pain. Linda silently thought he must completely purify Lulu and rescue her from the abyss. Meanwhile, as everyone saw the number 25 on the treasure bead, their eyes widened in disbelief. Snow Goose's captain, Leah, level 23. Ice Flower's captain, ISA, level 25. This unfamiliar werewolf girl had actually reached the same level as the captains of rock-level squads. The beastmen who had previously blamed Lulu sweated profusely from their foreheads, touching their chests, still feeling the aftermath. The adventurer with the full beard who had been talking with Linda exclaimed she could have joined a rock-level squad, but instead, she chose his team. What kind of magic potion has she been fed? No wonder he's called the ultimate pervert, charm that kills across all races. If I had half his charm, I wouldn't still be a single dog. A series of jealous voices arose in Linda's ears. But actually, he and those people were the same, single dogs. It's just that the teammates around him happened to all be beautiful girls. Gradually, the team-forming process came to its final step, naming the squad. Linda looked to the 2 women beside him and asked, "Do you have any ideas?" "I don't mind," Kaphne said indifferently. Lulu nodded, agreeing with Kaphne's statement. This left the naming entirely up to Linda. He held the feather pen and thought seriously for a while. The tip of the pen traced over the paper, writing down a line of neatly scripted common language of the continent. Kaphne leaned over to look, puzzled by the name. Lulu glanced sideways, slightly surprised, a hint of warmth melting into her usually cold expression. Written on the paper was Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team, in 6 large characters. "Why is it called Phoenix Tail Flower?" Kaphne asked, puzzled. The one who answered was Lulu, her expression somewhat complex. Phoenix Tail Flower is a common purple flower in the lands of the Beastmen, symbolizing friendship and companions. Linda had thought it through before naming it the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team. Phoenix Tail Flower itself served as a gift in the game and was the most cost-effective. It was cheap, and many game characters liked it. The language of the flower also symbolized companionship and friendship, fitting Linda's intention of leading all team members, without leaving anyone behind, to reach the top of the world tree. Thus, naming it Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team could not be more appropriate. System notification, which Lulu's trust level towards you +3, current trust level 44 points. Linda received an unexpected benefit. He handed the registration form to the staff member, who stamped it a moment later, took the form, and then presented 3 apprentice-level adventure team badges. The badges were the size of a baby's fist, circular, made of bronze, and depicted a massive world tree. Under the world tree was a treasure chest and crossed sword and shield, and a string of faintly glowing magical numbers: 1543, 953, 9563. Linda reverently received the badge from the staff member, took them out of the black box, and handed them to Kaphne and Lulu. The 3 of them each wore their badges on their chests. An odd bond seemed to connect them abruptly, and even though Lulu hadn't sincerely joined the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Group, wearing their badge made her feel something unusual. On her chest, she had only ever worn 2. One was from the Primitive Adventure team, and the other now was from the Phoenix Tail Flower. The group left the counter, and Linda stroked the badge on his chest, overwhelmed with emotion. 3 years had passed, and he had finally established his own team. No longer the former healer of the Snow Goose Adventure team, Eye of Wisdom Linda, but the captain of the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Group. Linda, just 3 bronze badges, yet they granted Linda the feeling of a traveler returning home, finding his place. No longer alone, he now had a goal to strive for. Linda grabbed Kaphne's hand on his right, then took Lulu's cold little hand on his left. Ignoring the gloomy expression on the face of the Beastman girl, Linda interlaced their hands and placed his own on top. The Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Group, established. Kaphne chimed in, causing a stir, perhaps feeling that they were one step closer to defeating the Demon King. Lulu, not quite used to the happy friends atmosphere, snorted and withdrew her hand to stuff it into her pocket. System prompt. Trust level of which Lulu +3. Current trust, 47 points. Linda glanced at the girl's petulant profile, slightly amused. This was just like in the game, always indifferent to the player until the trust level reached 80. At that moment, he received another system prompt. Missing one member to activate the squad module. In the game Mystic Continent, 3 make a team, 10 make a group. Linda wondered. His squad already had 3 people, but the system indicated one was lacking. Was it because Lulu wasn't considered an official member, or because Kaphne, a summoned beast, wasn't classified as a person? Linda closed the system and stepped out of the hall with Kaphne and Lulu, pondering whether the squad module functioned the same as in the game. In the game, the primary use of the squad module was to pat the teammates' heads, colloquially known as head pats, which upon touching could increase team members' attribute points. It also allowed spending a currency known as diamonds to buy various trial events for team members, to enhance attributes, potential, or even to realize skills. But the most powerful was the passive skill Captain's Aura. Within the aura's range, all team members would receive a boost. Linda pondered that once the squad module was activated and their strength enhanced, he could go to the 4th level of the world tree to find clues about his sister. The current priority was to find another member and activate the squad module. His level also needed to be raised to 10, and he needed to equip a purple rare quality walnut wood magic sword. Coming out of the Adventurers Guild and onto the street, Linda said to the 2 girls, "To celebrate the formation of our team, how about a big meal?" "This is a good suggestion." Kaphne promptly nodded. Lulu said, "I'm not going." Linda shook his head. "Everyone must go. This is a captain's order." Gurgle. Lulu's stomach rumbled inopportunely. Her expression hardly changed, yet she nodded slightly. "All right then." Half an hour later, the sky had completely darkened. The 3 of them moved into a Beastman restaurant in the inner city district. The cuisine here was meat-centric, and it was said that the chef had once served as a logistician in a steel-level adventure group, with culinary skills famous throughout White Dove City. For today's meal, Linda had spent 10 gold coins. Charcoal-grilled bear paws, pork knuckles, the tail of a giant lizard, all topped with a layer of red chili peppers and cooked with oil rendered from farm-raised slimes. Additionally, with various spices from the World Tree's secret realm, the dishes were a feast for the eyes, nose, and palate, stirring everyone's appetite. After a day of hunger, Linda and his companions instantly switched into a mode of wolfing down their food. Lulu, as a beastman, showed her wild side during the meal, using her sharp tiger teeth to effortlessly bite through the pork knuckle, breaking both meat and bone. Every bite from her small mouth devoured a substantial amount of food, like a wind sweeping through leaves. To Linda and Kaphne's surprise, they together didn't eat as much as Lulu, the smallest of them all. "Cheers." Linda took a napkin and wiped the oil from his hands, then raised a gigantic oak beer mug filled with wheat beer. Wheat beer was a favorite among nearly all adventurers, and Lulu was no exception. Each person raised their mug, clinking them together. A short while later, all were satisfied with food and drink. The 3 of them sat with bulging bellies, drinking water and resting. Lulu suddenly brought up. Is your team made up of just these people? A minor secret realm with 2 low levels wouldn't allow Lulu to enter, and if the Phoenix Tailflower Adventure team went into the World Tree secret realm, there would be only 2 of them. It was manageable at the lower levels where the danger was minimal, but at the 3rd or 4th level, missing a frontline class was less than ideal. Linda said helplessly, I'm still considering recruiting, but it's hard to find good members. I know someone, Lulu said, her head bowed as she trimmed her claw-like nails with a small dagger, sharpening them even further while speaking. If you need someone, I could recommend her to you. Oh, what kind of person is she? Asked Linda. She doesn't like strangers much. But if it's you, she might consider joining your team, Lulu replied. What about her talent and profession? Linda was particularly interested in this point. If the person was just an ordinary adventurer being forced to level up, the stress would be too great for them, and they would be a burden to the team as well. Linda believed in quality over quantity. Lulu's voice brimmed with confidence. Don't worry, that kid's talent has attracted invitations from several Steel-level adventure groups. Steel-level adventure groups? She didn't join any? Linda asked. The kid is a bit shy, but I think she'd be okay with you. Lulu nodded and then gave him a meaningful glance. She's a mage, around level 15. If you can bring her in, it's your team that should feel honored. After hearing this, Linda became inwardly alarmed. Could Lulu really be so benevolent to think of the team's welfare, having just joined herself? Where can I find this person you're talking about? He asked, keeping his composure. Red Heart City, Lulu answered. Linda raised an eyebrow. Red Heart City? That was Leah's hometown. In Linda's mind surfaced the image of an elegant red-haired lady. Leah's mother, Lady Bellini. 2 years ago, Linda had a private meeting with Lady Bellini, who had come from faraway Red Heart City. This lady spoke in a soft and delicate tone, requesting him to take care of her disobedient daughter, Leah. Back then, Leah was still quite normal, and Linda readily agreed. Now, having parted ways with Snow Goose Adventure Team, meeting that lady again would inevitably be awkward. But with Red Heart City being so large, it wouldn't be too likely to encounter her by chance, right? Linda thought it over and silently noted the address Lulu had mentioned. After finishing their meal, the group left the restaurant. Linda and Lulu exchanged their residential addresses to facilitate future contact before returning to their respective rented houses. Under the crooked, dim yellow street lamps, Lulu's gaze flickered as she stared at Linda's retreating figure. If he could summon the child from Red Heart City, he must undoubtedly be the captain. Aside from the captain, that child wouldn't accept anyone else's invitation. Lulu had her own matters to attend to. She easily found a passerby and inquired about the whereabouts of the well-known Snow Goose Adventure Team's residential area. Located in the inner-city district's first ring, it was a famous, affluent area and quite easy to find. Lulu prepared to meet the Linda from the Snow Goose Adventure Team. One Linda, one Li Cha. Surely one of them must be the person she was looking for. Ever since Lulu became a witch, the search for the mysteriously vanished captain had nearly reached 3 years. Before receiving an apology, Lulu wouldn't give up her search. In these 3 years, why had he disappeared? What had he been doing? And during those 3 years, did he feel a slight sense of guilt towards his team members? Lulu was grateful to that captain for rescuing her from the slavers, yet she resented him for treating her as just a tool, taking her to the high floors of the World Tree only to then kick her out of the team with one swift motion. She had fought tooth and nail for the team, yet not a single trace of her ever remained. Lulu wasn't willing to settle for that. Becoming a witch was just so she could make him apologize, for he shouldn't have kicked her out of the team. Perhaps one apology wasn't that significant. However, it had become the pillar of strength that allowed Lulu to endure when the witch's corruption flared up. With that apology, she would have no regrets. The late summer breeze carried a hint of coolness, stirring the pale blue strands of hair on the young girl's forehead. Lulu's hands, tucked in her pockets, stealthily transformed into beastly claws as she hailed a carriage, heading towards the Snow Goose Adventure Team's residential area. Night. The Snow Goose Adventure Team's villa. In the second-floor conference room, morale was low, and the atmosphere was oppressive. Members of the team sat around a long table, each one with fatigue etched on their faces. Aiko sat restlessly in a wheelchair, only able to hear the breathing of others and the severe scolding from a certain red-haired girl. Why do we suffer such heavy losses? The front line should have held back the magical creature's attacks properly, but I was constrained and couldn't even successfully activate my accumulate power skill. And the healer as well. The healing arts are cast so slowly every time they're not timely. The mage too. Be careful not to attract the hatred of the magical creatures. Leah, her face the color of iron, pointed at everyone in turn, stomping her foot in anger. Aiko, one of those named, hung her head, biting her lip and rubbing her temples, struggling to restrain the impulse to flip the table. Aiko admitted that she had issues with this strategy, always miscalculating the magical creature's hatred value, using skills to inflict damage, only to end up being targeted by the creatures. She acknowledged this fault, but Leah's problems seemed to be even bigger, right? Charging into a group of magical creatures recklessly, the team had to waste so much magic power and magic scrolls to save Leah. Objectively, Leah's total damage to the creatures was the highest among the team members, but that premise was based on dragging everyone along to support her. Yet, Leah thought all that damage was solely her own doing. Aiko had even killed a swift rock lizard and was accused by Leah of kill stealing. This time Snow Goose went to the 11th floor, encountering 3 swift rock lizards, 4 meters in length, comparable to earth dragons. Aiko and Leah's output was too high, causing the front line to fail at holding the magical creature's aggro, frequently chasing after the squishies. But why were the front lines able to hold aggro before? In battle, Aiko held her breath for a long time, finally rid herself of the swift rock lizard's aggro. Only to have the lizard chase of the moment, she fired off a light arrow technique. It doesn't make sense. Corona fought for ages. Shouldn't the lizard chase Corona first? To clear the 11th floor, Oru's arm was broken, and even with the assistance of regeneration art, it would take half a month to heal. The adventure team's inventory of magic scrolls was also depleted. Each scroll was a pile of gold coins. Snow Goose couldn't figure out the right strategy against the swift rock lizards, so they had to forcefully use magic items. Leah downed 16 life potions. Aiko's head hurt from over-consuming mana. Everyone came back with soot on their faces, too little joy in clearing the level. There was no victory banquet, but a criticism meeting instead. More than an hour, and it still wasn't over. Aiko looked displeasedly at the downcast healer Phyllis across from her. This blonde noble was full of arrogance when he first joined the team, but since coming out from the 11th floor of the Mystic Realm, he had been hanging his head like a deflated ball. In this attempt to clear the level, Phyllis, who took on the command, had major issues. There must be some kind of mechanism on the swift rock lizards that Phyllis failed to recognize. Aiko couldn't help but miss the days when Linda was still part of the team. Celebratory feasts were filled with joy. There were Linda's late-night, hometown cuisine, followed by a foot massage, then sleeping comfortably. Those days of adventure, almost like indulgence. When Linda commanded, there wasn't a single instance of such serious mistakes as Phyllis's. The front line could always keep a tight hold on the monster's aggro, while the back line safely dealt damage. Those creatures seemed blind, not seeing them at all. Thinking back carefully, it seems like there was a certain knack to hitting magical creatures a number of times. But back then, Aiko never imagined Linda would leave the team. Linda was supposed to stay in the team forever, as a trembling servant, then one day realize she, the mage, was the most excellent one in the team, fall deeply in love with her, hopelessly becoming a loyal dog. But the reality was before her. Linda not only left the team, but also formed his own. The more Aiko thought about it, the more irritable she became. Damn Linda, why hasn't he come to beg her to join? Aside from her, were there any other excellent adventurers who would join his group? Could it be he was spending every day and night cuddling with that big bear woman? The mere thought made Aiko's eyes turn red. She hadn't even slept with Linda yet. How could she let an outsider get ahead of her? In the background, Leah's voice scolded Phyllis. This short, red-headed girl, not much bigger than a panda, only had a fierce temper. Leah, dressed in a white top and a black skirt, had numerous bandages wrapped around her thighs and arms, and an oversized pain-relieving patch stuck to her head. She was fuming with annoyance, her eyebrows arched as she pointed a finger unabashedly at the new healer, Phyllis's nose. What the hell is wrong with you? Your strategy is completely unqualified. The front line is stupid, too, unable to attract the ire of the magical creatures. I'm constantly being targeted. Or it's Aiko who draws the magical creature's attention, leaving everyone weary from holding them off, fighting in a way that makes no sense. Who's supposed to do what, when, and use which skills? Spell out. Why is your guide only one page, when that traitor Linda's guide is as thick as a book? Leah's voice was crisp and sharp, like a sword slashing through the meeting room, piercing everyone's eardrums. Phyllis slowly lifted his head. Even as a new healer who had joined Snow Goose to cling to Leah's coattails, he couldn't help feeling a bit angry now. He had seen the strategy guide Linda had left in the room. It was full of dense, incomprehensible data, many terms Phyllis had never heard of. Clearly, the other party wasn't from a conventional academic faction background. Initially, Phyllis looked down on it, but as he read on, he discovered that Linda had actually marked out all the attack ranges and aggro values of the magical creatures on that level, and analyzed their vocal sounds to determine their condition, pinpointing which part to strike for maximum damage and aggro. That wasn't just a strategy guide. It was an encyclopedia dissecting and thoroughly researching the magical creatures. Not just Phyllis. Phyllis thought even his teacher, a level 25 seasoned adventurer from the Noble Academy of White Dove City, couldn't produce a better strategy than Linda. Leah demanded that he, a mere outstanding graduate, do better than Linda. She was blatantly making things difficult for him. Moreover, he had tried hard to cast healing arts on his teammates. He had consumed 7 or 8 magic potions, his magical circuits swollen and throbbing with pain, to the point it felt impossible even to urinate. All these efforts, why couldn't Leah see them? Plus, after being sternly rebuked by Leah, Phyllis finally felt a twinge of impatience and said in annoyance, "Well, why don't you go find Linda?" His words abruptly caught Leah off guard, her face turning crimson. Aiko and the other members looked at Phyllis with eyes full of admiration. They thought he was just a new bootlicker, but it turned out he had some backbone. Huh, why bring up that traitor? Are you sick or what? Leah questioned, staring skeptically at Phyllis. And aren't you a top graduate? Can't you even outperform a nobody like Linda who came up through the ranks? What use do I have for you then? But hell, I just can't match up to Linda, Phyllis thought furiously. Right then, Phyllis really wanted to overturn the table and tell Leah that kicking Linda out was purely blind. Such a person could be immediately appointed as an honorary professor if he showed up at the academy. Being part of a rock-level adventure team like hers was simply Leah and the others' dumb luck. Phyllis worshipped Linda, who could produce such a detailed strategy as if it were a flowing river. But the problem was he also wanted to cozy up to Leah's family, to expand his own family's business into Red Heart City. Phyllis sulkily bowed his head. I understand. I will seriously consider the strategy for the next level. Leah, seeming victorious, sat down. At this moment, Aiko suggested, maybe we shouldn't go to the 12th floor for now. The Ice Flower Adventure team will be entering the 13th floor next month. Leah said with a grim look, if we delay any further, the gap will only widen. Aiko sighed. Was it possible that the Ice Flower Adventure team was simply better than Snow Goose? Their team members coordinated seamlessly, led by a veteran adventurer with vast experience. And then there was ISA, whose style of conduct commanded respect, earning her the unconditional trust of all her teammates. Unlike the Snowflake Adventure team, where Leah would get caught up in her own attacks mid-fight, completely forgetting her teammates couldn't keep up. Even Aiko thought that in a one-on-one duel, Leah was still inferior to ISA. The reason was simple. Leah wasn't exactly the brightest. Normally, it was Linda's job to persuade her in these situations, a thankless task that Aiko was glad to avoid. Aiko sighed again, put on a congenial expression, and said to the visibly irritated Leah, "Captain, why don't we head to a minor secret realm or hunt some magical creatures first? Our resources were depleted during the last strategy for the 11th floor. We need to restock. Potions, magic scrolls, the front line's armor, all damaged, and the spoils from the 11th floor don't even cover a fifth of our losses." Her methodical analysis left Leah in silence. Suddenly, it dawned on her. The Snow Goose adventure team was out of money. Supplies needed replenishing. Frontline gear needed replacing. Oru was also injured. Even with the help of regeneration art, it would take half a month to recover. The pressure of strategizing from the 10th floor onward was mounting. Liao was also aware of it, and she considered equipping her team with town portal scrolls. But the scrolls for levels 10 to 20 were much more expensive than those for levels 0 to 10. Buying town portal scrolls required gold coins, and so did other magic items. Liao felt somewhat embarrassed. The main member's weapons were purple rare, and her own gear, all purple rare, had nearly depleted their adventure funds. It seemed Aiko was right. Proceeding to the 12th floor in this state wasn't wise, was it? Captain, I have something to say." Oru's one hand, wrapped like a mummy, hung in white cloth in front of him, while he raised his healthy left hand hesitantly and said, "What is it?" Leah asked, "Should we hire Linda to strategize for the 12th floor?" "Absolutely not." Leah's face changed instantly, and she slammed the table in refusal. There's no but. Hiring him for strategy would mean admitting that our Snow Goose adventure team is incompetent." Leah interrupted Oru. Everyone fell silent. After the strategy session for the 11th floor, most had gradually come to a harsh conclusion. Snow Goose's strength did not come from the genius swordsman Leah. It was Linda. Yet no one could convince this fiery-eyed redhead. Phyllis sneaked a glance at Oru, thinking that perhaps the team members all approved of Linda's strategy. The latter, noticing Phyllis's look, said gruffly, "It would be great if Brother Linda were here. With him, I'd get off lightly." Phyllis detected a faint taunt in Oru's words. He smiled and said nothing. He secretly thought that after Linda left the team, breaching his contract, he must be broke, unable to even afford decent equipment. Since that is the case, why not use gold coins to hire Linda for strategy? Although Leah disagreed, he could just keep it from Leah and secretly approach Linda. Phyllis's admiration for Linda's strategic abilities surpassed even his own mentor. He had long wanted to meet him. Leah and Linda might not get along, but that didn't mean the team members had to be on bad terms with Linda, right? Leah suddenly fidgeted, sitting at the end of the conference table, twirling her fiery red hair nonchalantly, and asked, "Does anyone know what that traitor is doing now?" "Linda," Klein asked. Leah felt uncomfortable the moment she heard the name and picked up the cooling magic array controller in the conference room, setting it to blow forcefully. Corona, who had been intensely focused on solving a puzzle cube, looked up, raising her little hand. I know. When I went to buy a new magic puppet toy on the street, I heard that Big Uncle Linda has formed a team." "Formed a team?" Leah laughed and shook her head. "He found teammates to form a team with him? He must have just picked someone randomly." "Not at all." The voice was Aiko's. Although she sat in a wheelchair, she actually was the Snow Goose Adventure team's information conduit and often liked to stroll around, enjoying the gazes of admiration from a group of adventurers. Aiko said with a hint of jealousy, "I heard it's a Beastman girl, an adventurer who took the level test and has level 25. Level 25? Leah fell silent. The highest in the Snow Goose Adventure team was only level 24, and that was Aiko. As the team leader, she was only level 23. Why would that kind of person join Linda's team? "Don't know," Aiko replied, definitely tricked and conned into it. Leah felt a blockage in her chest, unable to swallow it down. Why did Linda, who had left the Snow Goose Adventure team, seem to be doing so well? There was a busted blonde who liked him, and now a high-level Beastman girl had shown up. Hearing about other girls by Linda's side, as well as the Aiko hugs Linda incident mentioned in the White Dove Morning News the day before yesterday, made Lia feel inexplicably uneasy. Aiko, to actually like that traitor. Luckily, they had had an open and honest talk. Aiko stated that it was all the newspaper's nonsense, and that, like Lia, she was furious with Linda and vowed to punish that traitor. Lia gathered her thoughts and asked again, "What's Lin Da's team called?" Aiko said, "It seems to be the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team." "Such a weak name," Lia snorted coldly. "Phoenix Tail Flower is a common flower in the Beastmen territories, you know? It represents friendship, companionship." Aiko said, tilting her head playfully, "Isn't Linda possibly taunting us?" Lia fell silent again. "Once upon a time, I too considered him a companion. It was his own lack of effort. Who else could be blamed? If you see someone from the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team, beat them up for me," Lia said coldly. The team members looked at each other in confusion. Was it really only the captain herself who wanted to fight Linda? Phyllis was the first to snap to attention, raising her fist furiously. "Lord Captain, I will never let that guy off. When I see him, I'm going to give him a good teaching, no, a beating." Lia nodded. "We must beat him into a pulp." Ding dong. Right after the meeting ended, as Lia and her team were heading downstairs, they heard the doorbell ringing at the front door. Outside, a girl dressed in a white coat, her light blue short hair and beast ears covered by a hood, was lazily blowing a large bubble with her bubble gum. Pop! As the front door swung open, the bubble burst as well. At the villa entrance, a blue-haired and a red-haired girl met. Although it was their first meeting, Lia inside felt an inexplicable, strong threat. The other girl's eyes were calm, yet they gave Lia the eerie sensation of being stalked by a wolf. That beast man had a strong aura of aggression. Behind Lia, a bunch of team members craned their necks to look over. "Who is it?" "A beast man. Seems to be high level. Haven't seen them before. Not a local adventurer from White Dove City." "A werewolf. Light blue hair. Seems familiar somehow." "What are you doing here?" Lia, with her fiery temper, squared up to the beastkin girl of similar height, her arms crossed, and asked sharply. Lulu simply ignored the walking powder keg and glanced over her shoulder. Upon seeing the bulky Oru, with his square face and short blonde hair exuding a simple and honest aura, she couldn't hide her disappointment. "Are you Linda?" "Huh, looking for Linda." Lia was getting angry before Oru could even respond. Linda had long been kicked out of the team, a fact known throughout the city. Was this beastkin here to provoke her on purpose by asking for him? At that moment, nobody knew Lulu was a member of the Phoenix Tail Flower. Aiko had only heard that Linda had taken a girl as a team member, but wasn't sure of her appearance. "I'm looking for Linda. What's it to you?" Lulu glanced at Lia, frowning slightly. "Linda is..." Lia opened her mouth, but seemed to hesitate. As of now, Linda really had no connection to her. She had no reason to be angry if a stranger was looking for Linda. Finally, Oru saw an opportunity to butt in. "I'm not Linda." Lulu confused, "Not? Then where's Linda? Please call him out." "You've got the wrong place," Lia interrupted irritably. "Linda was kicked out of the team by yours truly ages ago." "Then where is he now?" Lulu asked. "How would I know?" Lia said annoyedly. "You knock on someone's door in the middle of the night, ask a bunch of nonsense. Aren't you annoying?" "Sorry." Lulu bowed to apologize, feeling that what Lia said made sense. "But why are you looking for Linda?" Aiko asked, puzzled. "Are you his friend?" "Friend? Not exactly," Lulu replied. "I just have something to ask him." "Let me give you a heads up," Lia warned with a menacing look. "Linda is my enemy." The implication was clear. If Lulu dared to be friends with Linda, she would become the enemy of Lia, the captain of the Snow Goose Adventure Team, known as Bursting Flames Lia. Upon hearing Lia's words, Aiko became so agitated that steam could practically be seen coming out of her head. What nonsense was she spouting? Confronting an obviously capable guest with such brazen declarations of war. Her emotional intelligence was off the charts. Aiko tried to smooth things over with a smile. "Our captain isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, so don't take her words to heart." Lulu, unfazed, said, If that Linda is the one I'm looking for, then he's my enemy too. Leah extended her hand. Then we are friends. I don't need friends. Lulu kept her hands in her pockets, utterly indifferent. Leah's face immediately darkened. Lulu, having not found Linda nor obtained his whereabouts, left the Snow Goose Adventure team disappointed. The door closed. A burst of discussion erupted among the Snow Goose members. Oru said, "That beast man. She seemed to know Linda. Do you guys know what's going on?" "I haven't heard Small Fry Uncle mention anything about knowing such a pretty beastkin lady," Corona remarked, holding a bag of chips, licking her fingers as she spoke. Leah's face was as black as coal as she continued staring at her own right hand. She had extended it, only to be ignored by that beastkin. Her pride felt as if it were being roasted over a fire, and it was excruciating. That werewolf girl's looks, aren't they just as rumored? Aiko slowly figured it out. A werewolf with light blue hair, high level. Could it be she's the new teammate Linda recently recruited? Leah's eyes widened. The beast man, who gave her a sense of great strength and whom she was unsure of defeating, was Linda's new teammate? What could Linda possibly have that would attract a beast man of that caliber to join him? Dumb luck. It must be just dumb luck. Leon gnawed on her lip in frustration, feeling that she wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. In the neighborhood where the Snow Goose Adventure team resided, there was a large magic fountain in the center, twinkling with colorful lights in the night, especially dazzling. Many adventurers rested on the platforms around the fountain, and there were couples, whispering sweet nothings to each other. On a bench, there sat a silver-haired girl dressed in casual sportswear, revealing her pale, long legs. She bowed her head, carefully checking the thick stack of information in her hands. All the information about the team members, handing it to Linda, should be fine, right? My judgment of people can't be wrong. It's only by doing this that I can show him the sincerity of Ice Flower. Linda, I will definitely make you join my team. A charming smile appeared on the silver-haired girl's face as she packed the information into a black shoulder bag and slung it over her shoulder. Her full hips lifted from the bench, her silver hair falling over it, and her long legs created a striking scene in front of the fountain, attracting the gazes of many adventurers. This girl was none other than Isa, captain of the Ice Flower Adventure team, and a genius swordsman, just like Leah. She had organized the members' information in detail, including skills, equipment, and personality traits, with the intention of handing it all over to Linda so he could start working on the strategy for the 13th floor. And Linda's address had been given to her during their last lunchtime meeting. Isa was about to take Ice Flower's private carriage when, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a girl from the werewolf clan walking from the direction of Snow Goose Villa. Those who are strong can sense each other's presence. Isa's expression turned stern, her face taking on a serious look. The other's aura made her feel like she was facing a gigantic polar wolf, every inch of her body radiating a cold and dangerous air. What would such a person be doing coming from Snow Goose's side? Isa's mind raced as she approached Lulu with a polite smile. She extended her hand, greeting. "Are you an adventurer from another place?" "Hello, I'm Isa, captain of the Ice Flower Adventure team." Lulu glanced at Isa's extended right hand and said indifferently, "I'm not particularly interested in humans." Unruffled, Isa retained her composure, withdrew her hand, and said, "I saw you coming from the Snow Goose Adventure team. Are you applying?" "Snow Goose has been recruiting recently." "No." Lulu was in a bad mood for not finding Linda and didn't feel like dealing with Isa. She murmured under her breath, "That Linda, where could he be?" Isa heard Lulu's muttering and raised an eyebrow. "Are you looking for Linda? Is there something you need from him?" Lulu countered, "Do you know him?" "Yes. I also know where he is." Isa responded with a smile. "Would you mind telling me why you're looking for him?" "He might be an acquaintance," Lulu replied hesitantly and vaguely. "An acquaintance?" Isa quietly sized up Lulu. Why did this little orc seem a bit resentful? Could Linda have done something to her? "I happen to be on my way to see him. Shall we go together?" Isa gestured toward the carriage. Lulu paused for a second and then said softly, "Thank you." "No problem. We're all adventurers from White Dove City, bound to help each other out sooner or later," Isa said, taking Lulu's hand and leading her into the carriage. Lulu felt the warmth in Isa's palm, and her tense body slowly relaxed. This woman was not quite like the treacherous and filthy humans she had encountered before. The carriage left the affluent neighborhood. The curtains were drawn, and Lulu, sitting inside the carriage, didn't see Linda and Kaphne passing by with several boxes of consolation gifts. After reconsidering, Linda had bought some milk and magical beast meat to visit the injured Oru. Meanwhile, Isa took Lulu to the Sparrow District, to the small cottage that Linda had rented. When they arrived here, Lulu's expression became very strange. Sparrow District, Harvest Road, Adventurer's Shortcut District Building 3, Room 305. Lulu silently recited the address Li Cha had given her. This was Harvest Road. This was the Adventurer's Shortcut District. Then, Isa brought her to the third floor, to Room 305. Lulu was stunned. So, that Li Cha and Snow Goose from the Snow Goose Adventure Team were the same person? Lulu was confused. Why would Li Cha purposely deceive her? "Seems like there's no one home." Isa knocked on the door, but there was no response inside. Lulu silently walked up to the front. With a swipe of a beast claw, the chain broke, and with a click, the simple wooden door opened. Isa looked at her in surprise. "Miss Lulu, what are you doing?" Lulu did not answer. Her azure eyes filled with a coldness. She remembered the look in the cave, that fleeting gaze reminiscent of the captain's. Li Cha was likely the person she was looking for. Lulu couldn't help but laugh bitterly to herself. 3 years had passed, and the leader who was known as a genius adventurer had become so weak, not even having the courage to face her. His personality change was also significant, from a lifeless magic machinery operator into a living person. What had happened over these 3 years? Lulu had a belly full of doubts. But she also realized amid her full-blown doubts and anger, there was a flame-like fragile joy. She might have understood why Linda would expose something like the witch purification ability just to save her. The Beastman friend Linda knew must be her. Did he feel guilty about kicking her out of the team? So he decided to extend a helping hand, avoiding, hiding, not daring to face. "Lord Captain, this really isn't like you." Lulu stepped into the rental house, surveying every corner. It was dilapidated and stifling hot inside, apparently not even having a cooling magic array. Disappeared for 3 years, just to hide in such a broken place. But she had finally found it. Lulu lifted the corners of her mouth. Even if she had to press Linda's head down, she would make him properly apologize. "May I ask, what exactly is the relationship between you and Linda?" Isa, who had followed behind her into the room, asked tentatively. Lulu thought for a moment and said, "Former teammate." That was a relief. Isa breathed a sigh of relief. But then she heard Lulu add, "Now also a teammate." Isa, indeed, there must be some unspeakable connection between Linda and this Beastman girl. Why would an adventurer of nearly the same level as her be willing to join Linda's team? Isa's hand clenched the strap of her shoulder bag involuntarily, and her heart skipped a beat with a wildly improbable thought. Could it be that Linda really had a chance of catching up to the Ice Flower Adventure team in the strategy layers? According to their agreement, once Linda surpassed her, she would have to join Linda's team. That sort of thing. Please no. Isa's heart raced with anxiety, feeling a bit regretful for agreeing to Linda's terms. Meanwhile, Lulu wandered into the rented house's washroom and noticed several lines of twisted and crooked handwriting on the wall next to the mirror. Front and foremost was become the #1 adventure team in White Dove City. She continued reading down the wall. The line at the bottom, neat like it had been printed by a magic device, was all too familiar to Lulu. It was the captain's handwriting. "I hope to safely reach the summit of the World Tree." Was this the captain's goal? Were the ones above written by his former team members, the members of the Snow Goose? Just from reading the words, Lulu could sense the joyful atmosphere that surrounded that team. In contrast to the primordial adventure team Lulu had been a part of, where the Linda she received was always a cold pressure machine. With the captain around, the members had to be cautious even with their breathing. She didn't want to be criticized, didn't want to be kicked out of the team, stripped of her equipment. But the Linda that the Snow Geese got was a kind-hearted captain who quietly wrote an inconspicuous line in the corner, wishing for his members' safe ascent to the summit. Lost in thought, Lulu touched the topmost, worn yet brazenly confident line become the #1 adventure team in White Dove City, feeling a sharp bitterness well up in her chest. If only the captain had shown her 1/10 of the affection he had for this writer, she wouldn't have ended up becoming a witch. It was from lessons learnt from the former teammates like her that were cast aside, which allowed the later Snow Goose adventure teams to benefit. Clenching her teeth, Lulu's beastly claws left several vicious marks on the wall writings. Although she didn't have much conflict with the Snow Goose adventure team, for the first time, Lulu felt a strong repulsion towards an unknown adventure team. Just then, ISA's voice came from the living room. "There's a note left by Linda. It seems he won't be back for a few days." "What?" Lulu quickly stepped out, frowning as she took the note to read it. It read, "I'm going to visit an old teammate and then make a trip to Red Heart City, returning in about 3 days. TCH. Lulu gnashed her teeth with frustration, feeling like she had lifted a rock only to drop it on her own foot. She had sent Linda to Red Heart City to recruit that kid, purely to test if Linda was the captain or not. Only the captain of the primitive adventure team could persuade the other party to join the team. 3 days. All right, I'll wait for you to come back. Lulu scanned a rental house, planning to stay there. If Linda actually brings that kid back, it will be ironclad proof of his captaincy, and she would not believe anything else he says, no matter how many lies he tells. "You aren't leaving?" ISA looked surprised at Lulu, who sat cross-legged on the living room table, rather impolitely. Lulu shook her head. "I'm waiting for Linda to come back." "I see." A hint of disappointment flashed in ISA's eyes. ISA wanted to try talking to Linda as well, to see if they were compatible. She had a good impression of this intelligent, handsome adventurer known as Eye of Wisdom. But there were just too many competitors. ISA could think of at least 3 or 4 off the top of her head. Achoo! Linda, carrying a box full of milk and magical beast meat gift boxes, sneezed without reason. "What's wrong?" Kaphne, with a candy in her mouth and a bag of skewers in her arms, walked and ate at the same time. Kaphne, who claimed digging up demon cores was a great contribution, naturally took half of the 25 gold coins. That rounds up to 13 gold coins. The inner city district had many snack stalls at night, and Kaphne bought whatever she saw, boasting wildly. Linda, on the other hand, had spent 10 gold coins on milk and the meat of a level 3 magical creature, the Great White Dove. Combined, they would promote healing of injuries. "I bet someone's cursing me behind my back." Linda wiped his nose, slightly confused, looking ahead at several large buildings. Aside from the detached luxury villas, there were also regular apartment buildings, which were much cheaper than the former. Klein and Oru had taken out a loan to buy an apartment here. Entering the neighborhood, not far ahead, there was a huge magic fountain, its colorful glow particularly captivating. Beside it, there were many benches where adventurers gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, mostly couples. Adventurers jogging past Linda, and, on the square, a group of elderly adventurers were dancing to exercise routines, while a bunch of kids played noisily with wooden swords. This scene from another world was quite similar to reality. Linda walked straight on. "Hey," Kaphne seemed to have noticed something and nudged Linda with her elbow, pointing forward with her chin. Following the direction Kaphne indicated, Linda paused for a moment. On a bench beside the magic fountain sat a girl with fiery red hair. It was the captain of the Snow Goose adventure team, Leah. She was alone, without her teammates by her side. Perhaps she had come out to clear her mind? The light and shadows of the fountain fell on Leah's face, fluctuating between light and dark, her small face staring blankly up at the night sky, looking somewhat desolate. As Linda and Kaphne, an attractive pair, passed by Leah, she indeed noticed them. Linda pretended not to see her and walked on as usual. But he could feel a sharp gaze sticking to him like someone had aimed a sword at him. Leah, seeing the comfort gifts in Linda's hand, initially relaxed her expression, thinking about how to refuse them. But unexpectedly, Linda treated her like air and just breezed past her. The comfort gifts, after all that trouble, were not for her. Leah was already frustrated from her defeat on the 11th floor. Linda's disregard was about to make her explode with anger. Meanwhile, Linda had almost walked away when he heard someone calmly say behind him, "I didn't lose, Missy." Question mark. He hadn't said anything, had he? Having been addressed, Linda had no choice but to stop. Walking away now would seem too deliberate. He turned to Leah. Leah's face was lifted, stubborn, like a disheveled but still proud peacock. Thick bandages were wrapped around the girl's arms, a large pain relief patch on her forehead. Her left hand lay casually by her side, her right hand on her hip, slightly tilted in a carefree manner. "If it hurts, you don't have to tough it out." Linda quickly saw through Leah's facade of strength. It was exactly people like her who would suffer for the sake of pride and never admit that even a decapitation hurt. Leah's face twitched. She moved her hands. "It's just a minor injury. It'll heal in a few days." That gesture seemed like she was trying to prove something. Only her eyebrows furrowed noticeably. Linda pointed to the pain relief patch on her forehead, the blood's seeping through. Leah's expression collapsed. No wonder her head felt fuzzy. She casually said, "Such a minor wound, it doesn't matter." "Oh." Linda nodded, glanced around to see that Kaphne had sidled off. Who knows when, perhaps afraid Leah might lash out at her. This deity was sometimes pretty smart. Linda left Leah behind and stepped forward. "I heard you set up a small team called the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team." For some reason, Leah was especially chatty that day. Linda was a bit annoyed and hummed an acknowledgement. The double non-committal hums caused the bleeding on Leah's head to surge. She glared at Linda and said word by word, "Your adventure team will never, ever be able to match up to my snow goose." "I wasn't trying to compete with you," Linda said, puzzled. "What exactly are you trying so hard to prove?" "But if we were to compete, the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team wouldn't lose to any team," he said. "What? You're way too arrogant." Leah, driven to laughter by her fury, pointed at Linda. "You've changed. You're not the Linda you used to be." The Linda of the past would have shown her warm concern. He would have stayed by her side when she was unhappy and assisted the team perfectly to clear the next level. Linda said, "You've changed too." Leah's eyes were firm. "I haven't." Linda shook his head, unwilling to continue the argument with the young girl, and walked away with the gift. In the square, many adventurers were sneaking peeks at them. Leah shot a warning glare at the crowd, then stormed back to the villa, fists clenched in frustration. She had come out to clear her mind, but after meeting Linda, her mood had only worsened. When she got back to the villa, she saw Aiko sitting on the couch with slices of cucumber covering her face, her head tilted back, emanating a faint white magic power glow, immersed in meditation. Leah poured herself a cup of coffee, cupped it with both hands, and held it to her chest, her thoughts in turmoil. "Aiko, do you think I've changed?" "Huh?" Aiko opened her eyes, surprised, and leaned to look at Leah, wondering what had upset the hot-tempered girl this time. She glanced around and said, "Nope. Leah is always Leah. She never changes." On hearing this, Leah breathed a sigh of relief. "Aiko, you really understand me." Leah felt much better. With a grimace, she finished her unsweetened coffee, went upstairs to her bedroom to change the pain relief patch on her forehead, and then grabbed the greatsword Sun Eater, practicing with grunts and effort. The wound throbbed with searing pain, but Leah gritted her teeth, letting her Fire Series battle chi circulate throughout her body. The defeat on the 11th level was only temporary. On the 12th level of the World Tree, she was determined to lead the Snow Goose Adventure Team to a perfect clear. Behind the villa area lay a cluster of residential buildings. In a 4-story building, Linda was warmly received by his old teammates. "I was just saying we should get Klein to buy some pigeon meat. And here you are, bringing over gifts," said Oru, laughing as he opened the door and saw Linda and Kaphne standing outside with the gifts. "Welcome." The elf girl, Klein, smiled politely, took the gifts from Linda's hands, and invited them into the living room. The two old teammates didn't seem to be in great shape. Linda noticed a trace of exhaustion deep in Klein's eyes, and that Orus' right arm was bandaged up like a mummy, with the heavy scent of golden sunflower emanating from it, a magical herb known to promote bone healing. The four sat down at the living room table, exchanged courtesies, and talked about their recent experiences. When the conversation turned to Snow Goose Adventure Team's conquest of the 11th level, Klein, who had been silent until then, suddenly clenched her fist and said in a low voice, "Liao went too far." She didn't mention a word about Orus' injury, just kept blaming him. Oru was straightforward and honest. He felt that being scolded by Liao was no big deal. But his girlfriend Klein could not stand it. Even when Oru's shield arm was broken, he didn't back down. The reason for the team's heavy losses was all due to Liao and Aiko always drawing away the magical creature's aggro. In the end, it was Oru who was blamed for not being able to keep the creatures at bay. Klein, a regular elf girl without a particularly forgiving heart, complained incessantly. Linda listened to Snow Goose's strategy and couldn't help but feel speechless. So, why can't you just take on the 3 swift rock lizards separately? Have Oru and Corona each lure one away, and then have Liao and Aiko team up to take down another? Is that even possible? Oru asked, scratching his head in confusion. Actually, there's a simpler method. Just coat the damage dealers with dragon dung. The swift rock lizards are afraid of that smell. Linda sighed. However, the best approach would still be for you and Corona to concentrate on attacking the swift rock lizards' tails, as that is their weak point, which generates the most aggro. Debilitate them all, and then finish them off with Aiko's area of effect magic, Rain of Light, to take down all 3 swift rock lizards at once, which will trigger the 11th level's hidden condition, and the quality of the treasure chest dropped by the magical creatures will be 1 tier higher. When Oru and Klein heard his detailed analysis, they were a bit stunned, exchanging glances, wondering why the 11th level seemed so simple. If they strictly followed Linda's method, would it be another no-damage fight? Confused, Klein asked, "Linda, can I ask, how do you know so much? You haven't been to the 11th level, have you?" "I haven't been, but I've watched other strategy live broadcasts." Linda had already thought about how to address these kinds of questions and said, "Apart from spending gold coins to watch the famous adventure team's live strategy broadcasts, there are also adventurers' diaries and records, which contain a lot of important information, like the fact that swift rock lizards are afraid of dragon dung. I found it in a book called Matos' Elderly Pig Farming Life. One day, Matos was hit on the head by dragon dung from the sky, and on his way home, he didn't encounter any swift lizards. After testing it, I found it was useful, so there's a high probability that dragon dung also works on swift rock lizards of the same species." Listening to this, Oru was dumbfounded. Out of 100 books of that sort, aren't 99 of them useless? You immerse yourself in the library just to read these things. Linda shook his head. They may seem useless, but if you dig deep, you can find some valuable information. In the first year after coming to Another World, Linda moved back and forth between the library and his rental house. The number of miscellaneous books in the library was immense, enough to form mountains. Finding valuable things from them was like panning gold from dirt. Moreover, most of them consisted of adventurers boasting about themselves, making it difficult to distinguish the real information, much less apply it to strategies for the world tree. Thinking about this, Oru could only admit complete admiration. Previously, like Liao and the others, he had comfortably enjoyed the benefits brought by Linda's strategies, knowing Linda was good at devising strategies, but he had never imagined he would be this impressive. Compared to Phyllis from the Noble Academy, he was really something. "Brother Linda, look, can we join your team?" Oru, caught up in the excitement, blurted out. Seeing the troubled look on Linda's face, Klein sternly scolded Oru, "Stop talking nonsense. Our contract with Snow Goose is still valid for 2 more years. Can you afford the penalty fee?" Clearly, they didn't have that kind of money. If they wanted to switch teams, it would have to be paid by Linda, the captain of Phoenix Tailflower. But clearly, Linda, just starting out, did not have ample funds. A while later, no need to see us out. Take care and heal your injuries as soon as possible. At the entrance, Linda and Kaphne said goodbye, as Oru and Klein watched them leave. Staring at Linda's silhouette, Oru couldn't help but lament. It would be nice if Brother Linda could return to the team. Klein, do you want to try persuading the captain again? Her? I get annoyed just seeing her now. Klein's face turned sallow. That kind of captain doesn't treat team members as human beings. Moreover, Linda won't come back. Klein sighed. He has his own team now. How could he possibly come back? Right. Oru scratched his head awkwardly. Then let's just get through these 2 years, wait out our contract, and then join Brother Linda. But I'm really scared. Klein shivered and nestled in Oru's arms, a worried look in her eyes. The higher floors of the World Tree are becoming increasingly dangerous. Lia still needs to reach the 15th floor in 3 months. Is our team really okay? I'm afraid that one day I will lose you. Death is commonplace for adventurers in the World Tree. The population of White Dove City was around 1 million decades ago, and it has only decreased over time, making it hard to find anyone over 50 years old in the city. Adventurers gain everything in the World Tree and lose everything in the World Tree. Don't worry, I, Oru, will definitely protect you. Oru promised emphatically, thumping his chest with his left hand. Klein's cheeks flushed red, and then Oru picked her up, closed the doors and windows, and slowly, strange noises began to emanate from the room. After leaving the wealthy neighborhood, Linda and Kaphne boarded a carriage bound for Red Heart City. Both were eager to find the next team member and officially start their adventure in the World Tree. Though Lulu is strong, the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team's current level is 0. Lulu can only enter the public Grand Secret Realm, and such minor secret realms, having been visited once, are of no help to them. On a modest small bed inside the carriage, Linda laid down, resting his arm as a pillow, looking up at the dark canvas above, thinking to himself. The moment he had kicked Lulu out of the team was in the early versions when the World Tree reached the 15th floor. That means, only after reaching the 15th floor could Lulu officially join the Minor Secret Realms adventure. Before then, they still needed to find another team member. Thinking back to the information Lulu had provided about the 15th level mage, who resided in Red Heart City and was somewhat shy, he realized he needed to be more cordial when inviting him. Linda had also learned that this person, like him, had changed professions. 3 years ago, he was a 20th level warrior who took massive risks to switch to the mage profession. Attaining level 15 again in 3 years, Linda respected his talent. The carriage left White Dove City and entered the wilderness. Red Heart City wasn't far away. They could get there overnight. For this journey, Linda had spent 100 gold coins on carriage fare. The roads in the wilderness were rough, and the carriage jolted vigorously. Next to Linda, Kaphne's sleeping posture was poor, as a long leg or arm would frequently invade his space. Though Kaphne was a scrap god, she indeed had plump, soft arms and legs. As an old mage who had never been indulgent, Linda's self-control was severely tested. He reminded himself sternly not to lose control, for if he accidentally wet his pants due to a dream, and Kaphne found out, that would truly be embarrassing. On another note, should he also consider getting a girlfriend? Linda remembered the visit to Oru's place, where Klein clung to Oru like a little bird, and he felt a bit envious. If the person with him today was not Kaphne, but a girlfriend, then they could really spice things up in the carriage. That night, Linda slept restlessly, his dreams intermittent. He dreamed a girl crawled into his blankets, her face unclear. At first, he thought it was Aiko, who placed his hand atop something soft. Just as he was about to make a move, the figure turned into Lulu, her icy eyes staring at him, which scared him so much that he immediately lost all inappropriate thoughts. But upon closer inspection, the girl's appearance in his arms changed again, this time to a brown-haired big Lolita, wrapping around him like an octopus in distress, timidly whispering. Lord Captain, please don't abandon me. Ugh. Linda woke with a start from a nightmare, his forehead drenched in cold sweat. The air inside the carriage was a bit stuffy, making it hard for him to breathe. As his consciousness gradually cleared, he realized the real culprit lay elsewhere. Linda focused his eyes, and to his surprise, there really was a beautiful girl in his arms. But it wasn't the familiar brown-haired big Lolita from his dreams. Instead, it was Kaphne, sound asleep and drooling from the corner of her mouth. A pair of annoying big ones were suffocating him, and that was why he had been having nightmares time after time. Scrap God, roll over to the side for me. Linda kicked Kaphne away in annoyance. What's going on? Are there magical creatures attacking? Kaphne blinked her eyes open, still drowsy, and fumbled around for her weapon. Sigh. Linda sighed and wiped off the deity's drool from his face. Outside the carriage window, the night was still deep. He lay back down, plugged his ears, ignoring Kaphne's complaints. In his head, the image of that shy, brown-haired big Lolita still lingered. Her petite frame, her big, soft panda companion, who also liked to sneak peeks at naughty comic books behind the team leader's back. In the Mystic Continent popularity rankings for 4-star SR cards, that social anxious big Lolita always ranked high up. Only, she became too weak later on. As a warrior, her passive skill was Glass Cannon, with reduced defense and increased damage. Against the fierce bosses in the higher levels, she wouldn't last many rounds before she'd turn into a grayscale avatar. Therefore, that big Lolita was kicked out of Linda's main team early on, and as a mascot, she was relegated to dusting in the storage room, where tapping on her once a day would net him 1,000 gold coins. It was only today that he suddenly remembered he had such a team member, a panda no smaller than Kaphne or Aiko. The person that Lulu asked me to find in Red Heart City is a mage, not a warrior, so I must have been overthinking it. Linda laughed at himself. The Mystic Continent was so vast. How could he possibly run into a former team member by such a coincidence? It was just his exuberant energy with nowhere to channel it, creating those mixed-up dreams, that's all. Once he got a girlfriend, those dreams of grapes he could not eat and long for would never occur again. The carriage sped through the wilderness, beneath the stars and the moon. For the latter half of the night, Linda managed to sleep after a fashion. The next day, Linda and his companion got off the carriage on the outskirts of Red Heart City and immediately found some magical creatures to subdue. If there were monsters, they cut them down. If there weren't, they hastened along the road, killing 7 or 8 level 7 bald eagles and a couple dozen trash slimes, totaling 100 mystical points earned. By noon, they officially entered the city. As foreigners, each person paid a gold coin to enter the city. Upon entry, the World Tree towering over the center of Red Heart City was immediately in sight. The branches of this World Tree were twisted, forming a heart shape much like a red peach, which gave Red Heart City its renown. Peach-filled pancakes, hot off the grill. Get them here, speciality of Red Heart City. Adventurers passing by, don't miss out. Plenty water in, grand opening celebration. Special discount for foreign adventurers. Stay for a 30% discount. Check out the new Elves Missy. Iron Cage armor, trustworthy. Red Heart's products are always top-notch. The lively voices came flooding in, with all kinds of shops and stalls on the street enthusiastically calling out to the adventurers entering the city. Eating, drinking, playing, and enjoying life. These were the 4 favorite pastimes of adventurers outside the World Tree. When that pimping minotaur shouted the words, Elven Maiden, a large group of drooling adventurers immediately flocked to patronize the establishment. When Linda approached to ask for directions, the minotaur glared at him. Humans, don't bother our miss. We only serve beastmen. Upon closer observation, Linda noticed that among the clients surrounding the minotaur, there were those with dog heads, pig heads, and crocodile heads, as well as many subspecies orcs like Lulu with only animal ears and tails, but not a single human was seen. Racial discrimination? Linda wondered aloud in confusion. Discrimination my ass. Only humans discriminate against beastmen. No beastmen discriminate against humans. Get it? If you disturb my business again, that's discrimination against beastmen. The Minotaur, with a nose ring, pushed Linda aside and walked towards Kaphne with a smile. Adventurer, would you like to come to our place and be a roast chicken? Ahem, a princess? You'll earn at least 10 gold coins a day. Far easier than the toil of adventuring. Upon hearing this, Kaphne flew into a rage. What? You looking down on me? Huh? I'm not finished with you today. Then old Bull shall truly have a lesson. The Minotaur snorted and reached out for Kaphne, glancing around to ensure no one from the Law Enforcement Bureau was around. His mouth curved into a sly grin, harboring a dark thought. But at that moment, a hand as strong as iron pincers grabbed the Minotaur's wrist and lightly twisted it outwards, causing a crack. The Minotaur's wrist broke right there and then. How could this human strength be greater than old Bull's? The Minotaur, ignoring the pain, stared at Linda in astonishment. He was a level 7 bull warrior focused on strength, yet with his wrist in the human's grip, he was unable to make the slightest movement. You're done for. My boss is from the Mundalas. You're in for it now. The Minotaur desperately clutched his wrist. Have the guts to wait here for me. With that, he took off running like a shot. Are all beastmen such bullies when they have the upper hand, but cowards otherwise? Linda shrugged helplessly and looked at the displeased Kaphne. Are you all right? Once I regain my power, I'll wipe out the Minotaur from this world first, Kaphne said vehemently. The two did not wait foolishly for their adversary to return for revenge. Following the address given by Lulu, they hailed a carriage and made their way to the inner city district of Red Heart City. On the way, Linda thought of what the Minotaur had said about the Mundalas, and he couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. That family was Leah's. The Mundalas were one of the biggest families in Red Heart City, mainly dealing with mining and some gray area businesses on the edge of imperial law, involving gambling and more, making them the true local heavyweights of Red Heart City. However, due to his connection with Leah, Linda was somewhat friendly with Lady Bellini of the Mundalas. Sometimes, when preparing strategy materials in Red Heart City, he would visit the lady, leveraging the Mundala's connections for his material collection. But for some reason, Leon never returned to Red Heart City, seemingly having severe conflicts with her family. Lady Bellini would look heartbroken every time she mentioned Leah, asking Linda to take good care of her. Now that he and Leah had gone their separate ways, Linda naturally felt awkward visiting Lady Bellini. He intended to enter the city quietly, invite this kid that Lulu talked about into the team, and then quietly leave. From the pouch on his belt, he took out a pre-written note with the address he remembered, which read, Inner City District of Red Heart City, 7th Ring, 75, Red Rock Avenue. As for the other person's name, Lulu had not told him, only that she was an 18-year-old girl who was shy. Gentle. Remember to be gentle. Linda rubbed his face, practicing a sunny smile. Kaphne watched from his side and sneered, disgusting. About half an hour later, the two arrived at 75 Red Rock Avenue. This was a Western-style house with a white dome roof, occupying about 100 square meters, and had a small garden outside. However, the area was overrun with weeds that enveloped the house, leaving just a barely passable path leading to the front door. After getting off the carriage, Kaphne saw the desolate scene, and her face fell. The address the Beastman gave isn't wrong, is it? It doesn't look like anyone lives here at all. That's not possible. If there was no one, even this path would be overgrown with weeds. Linda walked up to the door, knocked, and said loudly, Hello, is anyone there? I'm an adventurer recommended by Lulu. Thump, 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 thump. He knocked a dozen times in a row without any response. Not at home. Linda frowned and looked around, noticing all the windows of the house had their curtains tightly drawn. On such a hot day, he pressed his ear to the wall, but couldn't hear any sounds of the cooling magic array running inside. It seemed no one was home. They had no choice but to temporarily rent a room at an inn and decide to come back in the afternoon to check again. About 10 minutes after they left, a rustling of footsteps sounded inside the house. The person, timid as a frightened hamster, moved closer to the front door, peered out through the peephole with utmost caution, and after confirming that the two strange adventurers calling her had left, she clutched her chest and let out a long sigh of relief, murmuring in a timid voice, "No, didn't turn on the cooling magic array. That's really good." The young girl inside the house wore only a loose-fitting white shirt with an orange cat pattern drawn on it. Sticky sweat covered her pale skin, and despite the stifling heat inside the room, she was still clinging to a large, fuzzy caterpillar doll. It seemed she didn't have a single point in hand, not even daring to approach the door to look. Soon after, the girl went to the living room to check the food in the fridge, which was filled with boxes of chopped cabbage. With her and the cat's modest appetite, it was enough to last half a month. She took out a box of chocolate ice cream from the bottom freezer and held it in her palm with a relieved smile. Hee. Being useless is really great. After eating 1/5 of the ice cream, she licked her lips and reluctantly put it back in the freezer. She returned to the bedroom, lay back on the bed, holding a red and blue magic puppet console in her hand, propped against a tall panda doll. That way, her arms weren't strained at all, the distance was good, so she didn't have to worry about her eyesight getting worse. Using her waist to control the magic puppet inside, about the size of a fingernail, she made it jump, attack, beating one slime after another. The sun quickly set, and dusk arrived in the blink of an eye. Thump, thump, thump. Thump, 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 thump. Another round of urgent knocking sounded. "Excuse me, is anyone home? I'm an adventurer recommended by Lulu. I'd like to invite you to join our team." The clear male voice outside scared the girl inside so much that her face turned pale with fright. She buried her head in the blanket, and her bare feet stuck out trembling. Who on earth was outside? "Don't come in." She no longer wanted to be an adventurer ever again. She begged the person outside to spare her, a useless wretch like herself. Still not a home? Linda withdrew his hand in disappointment and walked over to the window, looking for a crack to peer inside through. If it turned out to be a house that hadn't been inhabited for a long time, he would have to consider the trip a waste and return to White Dove City. The problem was the curtains were drawn so tightly that not a single gap was left. For the path outside that had no weeds, it was most likely that someone lived there. Today was a coincidence, and the owner of the house was out on an adventure and hadn't come back yet. "I'll come back tomorrow to check again." Linda helplessly departed with Kaphne. The next day arrived. It was still the same. The house's cooling magic array wasn't active, and there were no signs the door had been opened. Linda had intentionally stuffed a blade of grass in the door. When he checked back, it hadn't fallen. He and Kaphne had no choice but to go to the wilderness to hunt magical creatures, spending the day that way. Red Heart City's surrounding areas didn't have any great leveling spots. Either the magical creatures were too high level or too low. After a whole day, Linda only managed to collect 24 level 5 demon cores. Selling them, he earned 50 gold coins, and his mystical points increased by 240. The third day, this was supposed to be the day he returned to White Dove City with a new team member. But after 3 days, he hadn't even seen the person. He couldn't help but worry whether they had encountered something on their adventure and couldn't make it back. He arrived at 75, Red Rock Avenue as usual, but this time the scene before him was different from the previous 2 days, lifting Linda's despondent spirits. A short, middle-aged man, carrying a large bundle of dolls, was walking from the house towards here. There was a dilapidated cart on the road, its carriage filled with bags stuffed with dolls. From the corners that peeked out, one could see there were mostly chibi, plush magical creature dolls. But that wasn't the focus. The child Lulu mentioned was a man who looked to be at least 40 years old. Linda's mouth hung open in shock. "Who are you? And what brings you here?" asked the uncle warily, scrutinizing them both. "Actually, we're adventurers recommended by Lulu." "Lulu? Who's that? I don't know her." "Anyway, I got your point. You also want to take on the doll sewing work, huh?" Hearing Linda say so, a hint of scorn surfaced on the uncle's face as he looked him up and down. Such a big adventurer, yet making a living sewing dolls like a little girl. "Dolls? What are you talking about?" Linda was totally confused. "Sewing handmade dolls, right?" The uncle threw the big bag of dolls he was carrying onto the cart and made a few checks at random, muttering in admiration. worthy of being sewn by a former elite adventurer. Not a single loose thread. This joint is seamless as it gets. TSK TSK. Paying that kid a copper coin per doll seems a bit little. As he spoke, the uncle opened a box in the cart, which was filled with lots of cotton and shriveled plush doll skins, and said to Linda, who seemed to have understood something, "Here, it's for sewing these dolls, 1 copper coin each. It might be slow at first, but once you get the hang of it, 60 a day is no problem. 1 copper coin each." Linda's expression changed. Sewing such a doll would take at least 20 minutes. The pay was only 1 copper coin. Not even enough to buy a loaf of hard, sawdust-filled black bread. What? Not enough for you? She's been doing it for 2.5 years, very skillful, and I'm still paying her 1 copper coin each. You, a newcomer, aim for the sky too. The uncle pointed to the overgrown house and said with irritation, "First of all, 1 copper coin is indeed too low. You're truly black-hearted." Linda's gaze became stern as he looked at the man. "Secondly, I'll give you a gold coin, and I want to ask, is there someone in that house?" Linda pulled out a shiny round gold coin from his chest, engraved with the emblem of the World Tree. The uncle's eyes immediately brightened. "You aren't planning to sew dolls?" "Of course not." Linda shook his head. "I came to find the owner of this house, having tried for 3 days without luck in meeting her." After taking the gold coin, the other party's attitude warmed up considerably, eyes squinting into slits with a smile as they carefully put the coin into their pocket. This person claimed his name was Mingda and that he was a retired adventurer who now worked as a doll merchant. Mainly peddling to out-of-town adventurers. In response to Linda's question, Uncle Mingda laughed. "It's right that you can't see her. I've known that kid for 2.5 years and have never seen her once." "Then how did you get those dolls?" Linda pointed to the big bags inside the carriage, looking bewildered. "We conduct transactions based on trust." Uncle Mingda said the kid would leave the dolls outside in advance. I'd take them, and then leave the corresponding copper coins at the door. She would come out and collect them on her own. "You've never seen her?" Linda was astonished. I've only heard her voice, very soft and delicate. It's definitely a girl. One time I got curious about how the kid looked, so after placing the reward properly, I hid outside, waiting for her to come out. But after waiting half an hour, some ruffian adventurers passing by took the copper coins, and she didn't come out. There was nothing I could do. I just had to get the copper coins back and put them at the door again. As soon as I left, I came back a few minutes later to check, and the copper coins were gone. There was a note left behind, though, thanking Uncle Me for helping her recover the copper coins. Uncle Mingda beamed. "She's still a polite and good kid, geez. She's just a bit shy and unwilling to show her face." This is a bit. It's practically extreme social anxiety. Linda secretly scoffed in his heart. He looked towards the white Western-style house with complex feelings. He had been here for 3 days, thinking the other party was not at home. But all this time, were they deliberately hiding from him? Not using the cooling magic array? Aren't they bothered by the heat? Or is it to save money? Linda was slightly annoyed and determined to see what kind of turtle was hiding inside, treating him and Kaphne like salted meat hung out to dry. "Thank you for the information, Uncle," Linda thanked with a cup of his hands. However, Uncle Mingda warned him and Kaphne, "You two, you're not planning to do something to that kid, are you? If you dare to forcefully intrude into a private residence, I can notify the Law Enforcement Bureau." Don't worry about that, we won't. We are bona fide adventurers," Linda quickly explained. "I was referred by the kid's friend Lulu." "I hope so," Mingda huffed as he drove the carriage away, still not forgetting to admonish, "Don't get any crooked ideas." "I really won't," Linda said helplessly. Watching the carriage slowly drive away, Linda murmured to himself, "Sorry, but today, even if it meant breaking into a private residence, he needed to see the other party." Linda and Kaphne strode up to the door and knocked loudly. "Hello there. I'm really not a bad person. Could you please open the door so we can meet? Why won't you come out? I know you're home." "If you don't open the door, I'm going to keep knocking," Linda insisted. Inside the house, a girl with brown long hair curled up tensely under the blankets, covering her head. Someone's voice penetrated through the blanket into her ears. Right now, the girl felt very scared, afraid that the person would break in and drag her out to punish her, stinking and filthy as she was. Her mother got punished by robbers just for opening the door without permission. Since then, except for the most caring Lord Captain, she would never open the door to anyone else. The person outside this time was clever, pretending to be Lulu's friend. But someone like Lulu could never have friends. That meant the man outside was deceiving her. She absolutely couldn't open the door. The girl kept her eyes tightly closed, covering her ears, praying that the person outside would leave quickly. After shouting for a while, the person outside went slightly quiet. Just when she was about to feel relieved, the voice started up again, this time with a different approach. "Little sister, the uncle likes your doll and is willing to pay a high price for it. Could you come out and discuss a business deal? Sell it to me for 5 silver coins each." A few seconds passed. 10 silver coins, no, 2 gold coins each. "I really like your handmade dolls." The girl slightly opened the quilt, her heart pounding fiercely. Two gold coins each? With that much money, she wouldn't have to worry about food for the next year, and there would still be lots left over to buy new magic puppet games. The girl was very tempted, but the rationale that remained warned her that this was definitely a trick to lure her out, and once she opened the door, terrible things would happen to her. You who skulk in your room like a musty, moldy mess, you don't deserve to live in this world. To be an adventurer and yet be too afraid to adventure in the world tree. You're truly a waste. Let this lord punish you harshly with a stick. Recalling certain scenes from comic books, the girl shuddered violently, her buttocks aching as if an invisible hand was dragging her into a pit of depravity. "No, I don't want to be punished. Captain, why haven't you come to save Monica yet?" The girl named Monica was yelping and sobbing under the quilt. More than 3 years ago, the captain called Linda assigned her to dust the warehouse, and it turned out to be a long task. In that warehouse, Monica felt an unprecedented sense of security. All the dust was swept by her own hands, and apart from the captain coming to check for cleanliness, no one else would come, creating a haven that belonged solely to her. But then one day, the captain disappeared. Monica's little warehouse was sold by other team members. And Monica, with nowhere else to go, bought this house with the help of kind-hearted Lulu. She dared not meet people or adventure in the world tree. Her only option was to make handmade dolls to supplement the household income. As a result, last year, because she got obsessed with drawing limited magic puppets, she signed her name on a loan flyer from the Mundalas, and the next day someone delivered 10 gold coins. But when Monica finally managed to gather the gold coins and was ready to pay back, she found the 10 gold coins had turned into 50. No matter how she paid, the debt was never-ending. Knowing how ruthless the Mundalas were, they would surely catch her for failing to repay the money and throw her into a tavern to be played with by the beastmen at will. Just thinking about it was enough to make Monica nearly faint with fear. The person outside now might just be tricking her into opening the door and then binding her to serve in the tavern. So, no matter what, she would cling tightly in her quilt and never open the door for them. Should we break down the door? Kaphne, from the overgrown garden, found a large, sharp stone and rolled up her sleeves, approaching the door like a soldier ready with a battering ram. Linda was actually in favor of the idea, but as a law-abiding adventurer, he chose to decline. If he broke the door and scared the girl inside? What if she didn't join his adventure team? They had come for 3 visits to the thatched cottage, not to abduct someone like bandits. Linda decided to win her over with sincerity. Moments later, the two of them pulled up the grass in the garden, built a fire on the ground, and began cooking delicious magical beast barbecue. Fat and juicy volcanic beefsteak, outside crispy and inside tender giant rabbit, sizzling fatty lamb leg. Kaphne, with a fan in hand, was responsible for blowing the aroma into the small house. Linda had a snow-white towel slung over his neck and a trace of composed smile at the corner of his mouth as he flipped the magical beast meat in front of the grill. From the available information, it was known that the owner of the small Western-style house was a severe social phobic and a poor person who scraped by making handcrafted dolls. The food they could afford to eat was probably nothing more than rotten cabbage. And this meat feast, which even adventurers envied, could she reject it? Eating meat fulfilled the need for sustenance in real life, while selling her dolls at a high price was her blueprint for the future. While grilling the meat, Linda loudly extolled the benefits of joining his adventure team. Join Phoenix Tailflower, and you'll be escorted to the 10th floor of the World Tree. In 3 years, you'll be stable at 30 floors, with high salary and benefits. The base pay is 100 gold coins, with extra for entering the Mystic Realm. Equipment, accommodation, and meals are all-inclusive, plus you'll get a town portal scroll. You're only required to follow the team leader's orders. Join the team now, and you get 10 days of luxurious feasts, sleep on a luxury bed, and ride in a luxury coach. Wave after wave of tempting voices, like whispers of a demon, mixed with the mouth-watering aroma of grilled meat, wafted through the cracks of the window to Monica's nose and ears. Having not eaten a proper meal for over a month, she was drawn to the scent like an elf lady hypnotized by beastmen, drooling foolishly as she walked over to the window. Eat. Monica wants to eat grilled meat. A pair of excessively pale and small hands pressed against the window latch. Just as Monica was about to be lured out, an untimely harsh shout resounded. "You little brat, when are you going to pay back the debt you owe to Mandala Gold Firm?" Big brother, what a coincidence. The one who hit my ox is that guy. You got to let him taste some good juice. He bullied my little brother? Fuck today, Luke. We'll let him know what it means to mess with the wrong person. Outside the small Western-style house, 3 beastmen dressed in black leather jackets, carrying wooden sticks on their shoulders and with ruffian-like faces arrived. The leader was Luke, a wild boar person with large tusks, his small eyes filled with brutality, as he crudely weighed his wooden stick in his hand, staring at Linda in front of the grill with a vicious gaze. Then, seeing Kaphne, the wild boar person Luke, was stunned. Kaphne, squatting in front of the window, fanning herself with a palm leaf fan, her large buttocks perched up, her long legs under her shorts white and flawless, her luscious thighs softly resting on her knees, nearly brought the 3 beastmen brothers to tears. On the spot, wild boar person Luke entered a combat state. "Old ox, old donkey, surround them. Don't let them escape." Luke sneered as he approached Linda, who looked utterly calm, and mockingly said, "You humans are quite bold. Seeing me, the debt king Luke, and you don't kneel and beg for mercy?" Linda finally glanced at Luke. Just now, Kaphne told him that this wild boar person had a level aura of about 8, only 1 level higher than him. But as a healing hero, Linda's basic attributes were twice that of the average beastman's, and it wasn't certain that a carriage load of wild boars would be a match for him, let alone a single wild boar Luke. "Before I beat you up, let's ask what you want with the owner of this house," Linda said politely, not forgetting to keep flipping the meat of magical creatures. Luke's forehead bulged with veins as he laughed in anger. "Fine, today I'll make sure you die understanding. The owner of this house owes our Mandala Gold Firm 10 gold coins. With interest compounded, by the end of the year, she still owes us 97 gold coins. If she doesn't pay up today, the house will belong to our Mandala Gold Firm. The Empire's statutory rate is a maximum of 24%, right? Anything above that is considered usury and needn't be paid back," Linda said. "Then you're mistaken," Luke sneered. "We loaned her that leaflet. The leaflet's initial value was 10 gold coins, and now it has increased in value. It's a total of 127 gold coins now, and not a copper less will suffice." "Oh, I see. The Mandalas are quite the scumbags, always skirting around the laws of the Empire," Linda said. Linda placed the grilled meat of magical beasts onto a plate, stretching his aching shoulders as he produced cracking sounds from his bones. With a smile, he looked at wild boar person Luke. "I'm ready. Let's start." Arrogant. Skills boar charge. Luke's expression changed drastically. In Red Heart City, which adventurer would dare to disrespect him? Debt King Luke? A pair of wild boar tusks aimed straight at Linda as the wild boar person charged in a beeline. Linda, with arms crossed over his chest, stood still while his body emitted a purplish magic glow. This glow formed a set of half-real, half illusory, spiky thorn armor around him, like a sea urchin. Poison Technique Series skills, Spiky Thorn Armor, increases defensive power by 30% and reflects 10% damage back onto the attacker. Among the major attributes, defensive power and magic defense are the rarest. If the defensive attribute exceeds the opponent's attack, then apart from being hit in a fatal weak spot, at most you would lose 1 hit point. Linda's basic defense is 24. His leather armor under his clothes adds another 1. And after the boost from Spiky Thorn Armor, his defensive power is 32. As for the level 8 Wild Boar Luke, his basic attack was at most 50, and his equipped gear seemed rather shabby, probably a big thug from the Mundalas. Let's estimate an attack of 60. When Luke rammed into him, his feet were rooted like a great tree, unmovable, feeling as if a swiftly running cat had nudged against his belly. To say it didn't hurt was an overstatement, but to say it did seem a tad too delicate. Above Linda's head, a faint red -40 floated up, while his total hit points were 1880. It was as if a long red health bar had lost a sliver as thin as a strand of noodles. Aya. Luke, dizzy from the blow, was also hit by the rebounded damage, clutching his head in a daze. In front of him, Linda wore a slight, disdainful smile and crooked his finger in a beckoning gesture. This left Luke's henchmen, Old Cow and Old Donkey, completely dumbfounded. How could that human withstand their boss Luke's wild boar rush and remain unscathed? Their boss Luke was a level 8 adventurer, taken head-on by a wild boar rush. Even someone of level 9 would be sent flying several meters and seriously injured. But what was with this guy? No injuries whatsoever, and he even sent their boss flying back? The two beast men exchanged a stealthy glance, each seeing a hint of bad omen in the other's eyes. Aya. Luke, not giving up, his face red with exertion, charged again with another wild boar rush. Bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. After 3 or 4 times, the result was the same each time. The human before him was like an iron tower, impossible to budge, whereas it was Luke's head that was nearly dazed from the collisions. He didn't even see the man wearing any impressive magical equipment. How could his skin be so thick? Luke was sweating profusely, panting and bending over, hands on his knees. The man he was attacking wasn't losing any blood, and Luke was the one tiring himself out. No, can't do it, brothers. I need a breather. You two go. Boss Luke, I just remembered I forgot to take a dump, so I'll be off. Same here. Luke was overjoyed. My gosh, I feel the same actually. This good juice, afraid it can't be given to that human now. The debt collection would have to be postponed too, for Luke knew well that today he had kicked an iron plate. The other party had taken his 4 wild boar rushes without a hitch. He must be at least level 13 or 14. The 3 of them tiptoed back to the main road, as if making even a slightly louder noise would draw Linda's attention. But it was just deluding themselves. You're leaving. Did you ask my permission? Linda's expression darkened as he raised his hand and threw a dusky purple venomagic sphere. Luke felt that the magic sphere didn't seem to be very imposing, and if hit by it, he figured it probably wouldn't be too serious. Luke's eyes saw it, but his body couldn't react in time. The purple magic sphere hit Luke's stomach with unerring accuracy. This thing didn't look as formidable as the grand and sun-like fireball technique. But the moment it struck Luke, it poisoned his guts until they turned green. A squeal like that of a pig being slaughtered came from Luke's throat. This wild boar person, known for his tough skin and flesh, was brought to his knees by the unassuming purple magic sphere, doubled over in pain and curling up like a cooked shrimp. Luke only felt an unbearable heat where the magic sphere had hit him, as if his flesh was rotting away, his life force slowly draining from his body, his consciousness fading. The wild boar people were naturally durable, and Luke, at level 8, had about 1,000 hit points, a fact he took great pride in. But after being hit by that ominous purple magic sphere, Luke felt that in no more than 5 seconds, his life force would be gone, and he'd die from the poison. He was not someone Luke could afford to offend. With this realization, Luke's face went pale, and forgetting all dignity in the face of life-threatening danger, He scrambled to Linda's legs, clutching them and crying bitterly. "Grandpa, please spare me. I was blind not to recognize a legend. I have the old at the top and the young at the bottom to look after. Please, let me go as easily as you would a fart." Linda was surprised, not expecting this beast man to lack backbone. After a brief consideration, pointing to the little white house, he said, "Cancel that girl's debt, and I'll consider it." At the same time, Monica, who was eavesdropping by the window, covered her small mouth in disbelief, her big eyes brimming with tears. The last person to treat her this kindly was the team leader. Luke nodded frantically like a pecking chicken. "Cancel it. Definitely cancel it. The remaining gold coins, Luke, will repay." All right. Linda didn't want to kill someone in Red Heart City and attract the attention of the Law Enforcement Bureau. Watching Luke's lips turn blue from the poison along with his blank stare, he was on the verge of death. Too few hit points. Can't even handle the dosage of a venom magic sphere? Linda shook his head, truly feeling the dilemma of throwing a punch at someone and then begging them not to die. Killing in the city brought too many complications, so he waved his hand and sent over a primary healing spell. A green plus 300 popped up over Luke's head. This recovery amount? Luke's lips immediately regained color, and his head cleared up a lot. With the help of the primary healing spell, Luke's excruciatingly painful body felt a warm flow pour into it. So comfortable, he nearly wet himself. Continuous healing. A green circle of light fell upon Luke. Plus 75, plus 70, plus 73. Thanks to the dual assistance of the primary healing spell and continuous healing, the blood loss from the venom magic sphere was barely stemmed. Linda felt relieved he didn't throw a second magic sphere at Luke, or he truly wouldn't have been able to save him. But even with his hit points fully restored, the external wounds couldn't be healed with healing art, as hit points were only one indicator of health. On Luke's stomach, there was a hole the size of a baby's fist, surrounded by flesh that was corroded and emitting a foul smell. Luke, holding his stomach, looked at Linda with a trembling fear and didn't dare show the slightest resentment, saying with a forced smile, "Can I go now?" "Get lost." With Linda's consent, Luke was tremblingly helped away by two of his subordinates. "Owner of the little white house, now you should understand, I meant no harm, right?" Linda shouted toward the people inside. "I've managed to offend the Mundalas, and, though it doesn't sound nice to say, they've taken a grudge against you two now. Sooner or later, they'll seek their revenge. Leaving Red Heart City and joining my adventure team to make a fresh start in White Dove City is the best choice. Your friend, Lulu, is also there as a member of the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure team." "Really?" A feeble voice, fainter than the flapping of a mosquito's wings, seeped through a crack in the door. Had not been wasted. Only, something struck him as slightly odd. The voice sounded eerily familiar, as though he had heard it somewhere before. He just couldn't pinpoint where. "Can you open the door so we can have a proper talk?" "Rest assured, I, Linda, captain of the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure team, am not a bad person." Linda spoke with the gentle tone one might use to coax a child. "Lynn, did you say your name is Linda?" A timid voice, soft as a kitten's, squeezed itself through the gap in the door. "Yes, I am Linda. Good child. Open the door and let Uncle have a look." Linda wondered if the girl on the other side of the door, whose mental and physical age seemed mismatched at 18, could really be so shy. Surely even a 5-year-old child wouldn't be this timid? Squeak! Under his eager gaze, the white door that had remained tightly shut, feigning an empty house, slowly opened a crack. He lifted his foot, ready to walk in, but as soon as the door opened a crack as wide as a little finger, it was forcefully held in place by someone from the inside. "How am I supposed to come in if you don't open it a bit more? Uncle can't get through here." Linda was completely confused. "Come closer." "What? Your face? Come closer so I can see if you're really Linda." The voice on the other side grew softer and softer, almost inaudible if Linda hadn't been an adventurer. He couldn't help but exchange a glance with Kaphne. Both of them began to have second thoughts. Was it really a good idea to recruit someone like this into their team? Even if the other party was level 15 and had excellent talent, Such a personality didn't seem fit for cooperation with the rest of the team. Yet, having come all this way, Linda couldn't bear to walk away without meeting the person, felt reluctant to leave just yet. He put on a gentle, sunny smile and leaned in close to the gap in the door. "See, doesn't Uncle look like a nice guy?" Peering through the gap, he saw nothing but darkness. There was no magic light on in the room, and the curtains were drawn, leaving it pitch black and impossible to make out the person's features. All he knew was that a delicate figure with an oddly shaped head kept staring into his eyes. Being one of the rare individuals in another world with black hair and eyes, Linda often attracted attention. Had the girl inside been drawn to him? He speculated wildly. A moment passed, 2 moments, 3 moments. It's Lord Captain." A cry laden with inarticulate sobs and excitement burst from behind the door, and the door in front of Linda flew open. A brown figure suddenly flung itself into his arms. "What's going on? What's happening?" Kaphne was also stunned. The girl who had suddenly run out of the house and thrown herself into Linda's arms was dressed so strangely. A square cardboard box adorned her head, with a caricatured portrait of a turnip painted on it, a chibi version of the turnip character smiling and holding up a knife and fork, with the words beside it, "The more you eat, the bigger and healthier you get." Was the turnip taking charge like this? That's healthy to an excessive degree, isn't it? Kaphne watched the girl clinging tightly to Linda's waist with a trembling heart, feeling an inexplicable sourness inside. Do you agree to join the Phoenix Tailflower Adventure team?" Linda awkwardly raised his hands, not knowing why the other party was hugging him so tightly. But it seemed inappropriate to hug back at random, right? What if she was a simpleton and he ended up bullying her? The Law Enforcement Bureau would hand him a pair of silver bracelets on the spot. The girl's sobs came from the box, whimpering without a response. Only the words "Lord Captain" repeated over and over. Under the cardboard headgear was a loose white top with its hem covering the upper thighs. The girl's bare feet were on the ground, her skin pale and delicate, the unhealthy white of someone not exposed to sunlight for a long time. Linda felt as if he was handling a fragile, delicate toy that would break with just a couple of touches. The girl was barely 1.60 meters tall. Even with the box on her head, she only reached his chin. A large panda with a small body. Seemed slightly familiar. "What's your name? Can you take off the headgear so Uncle can see your face?" Linda asked in a gentle, hushed tone. The girl glanced at Kaphne beside her, then quickly drew back into Linda's embrace, as if afraid that the brief look would draw Kaphne's attention. She said in a timid voice, Only for Lord Captain to see." Kaphne was irritated. "Huh? I'm not going to eat you. What are you so afraid of?" As she spoke, she reached out to pull off the girl's headgear. Woo woo woo. A cry like that of a young beast erupted from the box. The girl moved behind Linda, her small hands anxiously clutching the corner of Linda's clothes. Linda sighed, stopping Kaphne. "I'll talk to her first. You wait outside for a while." "That won't do. She's been here for 3 days, always hiding and refusing to meet. This kind of ingratitude needs to be hung up and whipped for all to see," Kaphne said firmly. When the cardboard box girl heard "whipped for all to see," she trembled with fear, her legs shaking like a sieve, and a trickling sound followed. At first, Linda thought the water pipes in the house weren't closed tightly, but when he turned around, both he and Kaphne were dumbfounded. Right in front of them, the cardboard box girl, whose name they didn't even know, had been scared into wetting herself. Kaphne was thunderstruck, watching the girl's trembling body, slowly feeling a twist of guilt in her heart. She thought the girl was faking it, but it turned out she was genuinely timid, even more so than a mouse. "Don't worry, you won't be whipped. She was just kidding," Linda said softly, caressing the cardboard and holding the girl's feeble hand, leading her into the house. This time, Kaphne didn't say more, waiting outside speechlessly. Both tactfully pretended not to hear the sound of water, so as not to hurt the girl's pride. Upon reaching the entryway, Linda smelled a stench. The hallway on both sides was filled with round, white trash bags containing many disposable chopsticks, food containers, heaps of toilet paper, and filthy, smelly clothes. Jackets, skirts, underwear, a complete mess of dirty items that seem to have been tossed aside after becoming filthy, too lazy to be washed. They say the scene of a room can reveal the character of its owner. Linda's small rental, though a bit worn, was impeccably clean otherwise. Not even the slightest trace of dust could be found on the dining table after wiping it for a long time. In the room before his eyes, Linda glanced at the cardboard box girl, who sat clasping her legs and trembling. Her head hung low, and quickly labeled her in his mind: social anxiety, lazybones, and a poor soul who can't even afford clothes. He had thought the girl's loose top was an attempt at emulating the trendy outfits of the elf race, but now he was sure. The person in the cardboard box dressed that way because she couldn't afford trousers. Sewing dolls all day wasn't enough to earn even one silver coin, and she had a substantial debt with the mandalas and gold coins. Simply not being dragged out of her house and sold into a chicken coop to serve the beastmen was pure luck. If he hadn't happened to come by today, Luke would definitely have smashed the door in and stormed inside. The consequences would have been unthinkable. Linda sighed and, taking the girl with him, sat down in the living room. The living room was just as messy. The table was coated in dust, and the floor was littered with meticulously cleaned ice cream boxes and many haphazard bottles of great water, a necessity for down-and-out adventurers at one copper coin bottle. A huge question loomed before Linda. You're a level 15 adventurer, right? Why is everything, well, how do I put it, so Spartan? Your living conditions are excessively Spartan. A level 15 adventurer could easily take on a quest to subdue magical creatures and bring in at least 10 gold coins. Poor, the cardboard box-wearing girl mumbled hesitantly. I know you're poor, but I'm asking, why are you so poor? The girl shook her head. All adventurers, except for the Lord Captain, they would harm me. Definitely use Monica as bait to attract magical creatures. Monica? Linda was momentarily taken aback. The name sounded somewhat familiar to him. His gaze intensively focused on the girl. No one's here now. Can Uncle take off your head cover? Once he saw her face, he would definitely remember. The girl who claimed to be Monica nodded her little head gently and shyly clutched the hem of her oversized top, covering her tightly clenched thighs. This tense posture quickened Linda's heartbeat slightly. It was merely removing her head cover. So why did he feel so nervous? So, Uncle is going to start now, okay? Enjoy exclusive chapters from MV Ellie Novel Bin. Linda shook his head, dispelling any improper thoughts. As an adventurer who knew and understood the law, he must not take undue actions just because someone seemed easy to bully. With a serious expression, he held down the cardboard box on Monica's head and grasped the edges, slowly lifting it up. Rustle. In an instant, the girl's silky brown hair cascaded out of the box like a waterfall, disheveled in appearance, yet possessing beautiful, smooth, long hair. Gradually, her delicate chin came into view, followed by her pursed pink lips, her refined nose, and her shy, batting eyes looking timidly at her toes. Linda continued lifting the cardboard box upward, revealing her significantly large and adorable forehead, bright and shining, with long hair on the right side braided into a plait, passing across her high forehead and being nervously fiddled with in her palm. Now fully exposed to the air, the girl instinctively curled up as she cautiously lifted her head to look at Linda and said timidly, Lord Captain, you haven't abandoned Monica, have you? Team leader, you haven't, abandoned Monica or anything? What do you mean she's left? Without the team leader, they all pick on Monica. As she spoke, Monica's eyes grew redder and little pearls of tears started falling one by one. When Linda saw the girl's face, that familiar broad forehead, the brown long hair, and the thin, delicate braid, the socially anxious and frustratingly helpless facade of hers, it all came back to him. Glass Cannon, Monica, 4-star SR, the consolation prize and some 5-star SSR powerful character pool. Deal damage as high as the sky, as flimsy as paper. The early phase war god of the world tree secret realm, and sundered in later stages. Linda once recommended in the strategy guide created for the player community to use Monica for the first 15 floors, and then you could stash her in the warehouse to gather dust. Over time, he almost forgot about this 4-star character. The girl's face, wet with tears like a pear blossom in the rain, and her continuous, grievous whimpers couldn't help but make Linda feel a sense of guilt. In the game, Monica's affinity had 3 events. 1. A glimmer of light in the darkness. 2. I want to become an excellent adventurer. 3. For the team leader, Monica can do anything. In the first event, Monica was sunny and cheerful with a harmonious family. However, due to her mother's misguided sympathy for a beggar beastman, an incident of extreme malice transpired. It was then the player, taking the role of an adventurer, appeared, slaying the beastman and taking in Monica, who had become an orphan. In the second event, the player trained Monica's body and forged her spirit, helping her step out of the shadows to become a proficient warrior. Then came the third event, when the affinity gauge was full. Under the starry night, the player stroked Monica's head, and with her face turning red, she shyly smiled, saying, "For the team leader, Monica can do anything." Monica hopes to use a special nickname for you in private. Please input ______. Linda. That was the text Linda entered. So Monica had previously asked if he was Linda, not the game ID dial-in. With a heavy sigh, Linda glanced over the filthy house and Monica, trembling and uneasy like a young animal, feeling a surge of paternal protectiveness well up inside him. It was he, as the player, who had rescued Monica, but then mysteriously disappeared 3 years ago. With the personalities of the other team members, they were definitely not going to treat Monica kindly, which led to 3 years passing, and her reverting to the reclusive girl she had been at the start. From now on, as your team leader, I will once again fill you with sunlight and shatter the darkness in your soul. Overcome with emotion, Linda embraced the sobbing Monica, his large hands warmly holding the young girl. Suddenly, he was struck by a thought. How fragile this body was, like a trembling tower of Jenga blocks that could collapse with the slightest carelessness. Living in a dimly lit little house, making a living from sewing handmade dolls, with meals that were hit or miss and nutrition supplemented only by turnips, and so thin, with nothing left but dark circles under the eyes. Determined, Linda whispered in Monica's ear, "Join the Phoenix Tail Flower Adventure Team. As your team leader, I will never let you go hungry again." Team Leader Lord. Monica stammered as she looked into his eyes. Originally, Monica had already given up on being an adventurer, but when Linda's voice rang out, a scene emerged in her mind. A black-clad swordsman wearing a mask, revealing only a pair of cold eyes, entered the room, slaying beastmen thugs and rescuing the girl from despair. All adventurers might harm him, but Monica believed only team leader Linda would not. Yeah. Monica nodded her head vigorously, wiping away the tiny pearls at the corner of her eyes. If it's team leader Lord, then it's okay. The girl's soft voice was like honey to Linda's ears. He knew this affection was nothing more than the pure bond between comrades. But as he held Monica's frail, willowy waist, he, the old mage, was almost losing control. A complacent okay led Linda's thoughts straying into dangerous territory. He gazed at Monica's delicate, petite face, and the scent of her sweat exuded a strange fragrance, standing out in the filthy, dingy house. Only the girl's skin shone dazzlingly white. Even a ripe peach could not seem to be 1% as tempting as the sight before him. Why isn't it done yet? Suddenly, Kaphne's disgruntled complaint sounded from outside. Linda snapped awake. He opened his eyes wide. With a sense of horror, he almost couldn't resist doing something inappropriate to his own teammate. Team leader Lord? Monica looked at him puzzledly, not at all aware she had just skirted the gate of hell, blinking her big eyes in confusion. Cough, cough. We need to pack up and leave this place. Linda turned around subtly, pulling up his trousers, and said with a serious expression, "I've scared away those debt-collecting beastmen, but they might come back." Talking about beastmen, Monica's little face turned pale, and with a whimper, she threw herself into Linda's arms. I don't remember Monica having a bear charge skill. We're all adults here. No hugging or clinging to the team leader. Linda said sternly, what my team needs are adventurers with independent characters. And you, as you are now, clearly don't qualify. You still need more training. Reluctantly, Monica let go of her hold, her voice weak. Monica will work hard not to be left behind by team leader Lord. Talking about this, Linda felt guilty once again. He sighed and asked, how had you spent these 3 years? I remember you were a warrior profession, so why did Lulu tell me you've become a mage? It's like this. Monica remembered those awful days, her gaze turning dim and lifeless. Through the girls' recounting, Linda learned what had happened to the Primordial Adventure team after his mysterious disappearance, and the reason for Monica's current condition. Firstly, the Primordial Adventure team had once been the Southern Fire Empire's premier young team, famed for being the most promising to reach the top. Unfortunately, 3 years ago, the team leader known as Dark Shadow, Dalian Asterisk Jawa, vanished as if evaporated from the world, without a trace to be found. The self-proclaimed proud members, leaderless, couldn't agree on a new leader. So, they vented their frustrations by smashing the team leader's bedroom to pieces and divided all the adventure team's assets among themselves, each going their own way. These were all 5-star SSR level members of the Primordial Adventure team, whom Linda had spent a fortune to recruit through 648 draws. As for those 4-star SR characters he had kicked out, Monica wasn't too clear on that. Monica, who had been oblivious to the outside world while staying in the warehouse, content with food and drink, was thrown out when the team disbanded. Penniless and desperate, having lost the shelter of her team leader and feeling like any adventurer could harm her, she decided to use change profession to end it all. The chance for Monica, a level 20 warrior class, to fail at changing her class was over 99%. But she was lucky and successfully became a mage. It seemed heaven thought her time had not yet come. After that, Monica met Lulu, who helped her acquire this house located in Red Heart City. Smashing my bedroom, splitting the team's wealth? Is there no one who feels sad about the captain's disappearance? Linda was stunned. No matter what, he had led them to the higher levels of the world tree. He could understand the 4-star characters he kicked out of the team holding grudges against him. But what about the core team members who stayed? Why were they all ungrateful? There is someone, Monica thought for a moment, raised a snow-white index finger, and said, Sister Tina took all the cucumbers from the captain's room and cried a lot last night. Cucumbers? The ones from the blue furniture, strong vegetable cabinet. They were there only to be seen and not touched. What did Tina want those for? Before Linda's eyes, he pictured a nun with pink hair and a sickly smile. The 5-star SSR Hell's Judgment Tina, a melee mage, whose character's third act event was wishing to turn the captain into a pretty specimen. Aside from Tina, isn't there anyone else who is sad about the captain's disappearance? Linda shivered. His intuition told him that he must hide the fact that he was the former leader of the primitive adventure team. In the game, Tina could at most threaten the player through the screen, but in reality, Linda feared he'd be drained dry and end up hanging on the wall of Tina's bedroom. Maybe there is, but Monica doesn't know, Monica said, puffing out her proud chest, hitting it with her little fist which wobbled like jelly. Monica has been waiting for the captain to come back all this time. Monica really is a good child, Linda said, touching Monica's little head with emotion. 5-star characters were all ingrates. To advance in the world tree's secret realm, you had to rely on the loyal 4-star characters. The young girl squinted her eyes like a cat, a look of enjoyment on her face. Linda thought to himself that Monica, even as a 4-star, was actually quite weak. Now that she had changed to a mage, a back row class, she had maximally reduced the side effects of the glass cannon passive skill. Staying with him, a healing hero, he would protect Monica from the nasty magical creatures preying on her. Half an hour later, after packing their luggage, the two walked out of the house. Monica wore a bright yellow miniskirt that Linda had caffney by, her long legs wrapped in pure white stockings, her feet in round-toed leather shoes. She was no longer a poor girl without clothes to wear. But the moment she stepped outside, Monica still cautiously put on her cardboard box and carried a bundle as disproportionately large as a dung beetle's ball of dung. The bundle was wrapped in a very old-fashioned pattern of loud, vibrant colors, usually only worn by older generations of adventurers. This ordinary pattern won't attract attention, Monica claimed, carrying the huge bundle on her back, in response to Lynn Dawes' puzzled question. No, what I mean is, doesn't this actually make you stand out more? Linda said awkwardly. Looking towards the main road, all the pedestrians were staring at Monica, who wore a cardboard box on her head, white stockings, and carried an oversized, old-fashioned bundle. It was like when an adventurer from the south hesitantly entered a public bath in the north, striding in without any undergarments with complete confidence. No one would glance at you, not even if it was embarrassingly small. But if you wore underwear to cover up, no matter how big, it would attract the attention of everyone in the room. Right now, Monica's approach was the latter. Just the cardboard box on her head was eye-catching enough, but couple that with a bundle as big as a great water tank, and she resembled a dung beetle pushing a ball of dung, except she was a beautiful girl. All the passers-by stopped in their tracks, their faces a picture of surprise as they looked at her. Team leader, Monica is so scared, whined Monica like a timid mouse, hiding behind Linda and trembling slightly as she clutched at the hem of his clothes. For someone who had hidden away at home for 3 years, stepping out of the door and into the sunlight undoubtedly required a lot of courage. Take off the cardboard box, Monica. You are so pretty, and everyone would be happy to see you, Linda advised. But Monica's little head shook like a rattledrum, and through the peepholes of the cardboard box, her big eyes revealed a determined look as she stubbornly said, "Without the cardboard box, Monica can't survive." It seemed there was still a long way to go before she could overcome her social anxiety. Linda sighed heavily from within. He glanced at the large bundle Monica was carrying, wondering where this big Lolita had acquired so much luggage. Inside were various figurines resembling magic puppets, comic books, storybooks, and they must have weighed quite a bit. He offered to help Monica with her luggage, but she solemnly declined. Monica cannot trouble the team leader, definitely not adding to his burdens. Was it because he had locked her in the storage room and hadn't visited? Linda felt that Monica seemed uneasy, as if afraid that he would abandon her again. This time, whether it's Monica or Lulu, I will take them both to the top of the world tree to see that breathtakingly beautiful view. Linda thought to himself silently. The trio reached the main road and hailed a carriage. Linda planned to take Monica to complete her team registration first, lest this big Lolita get cold feet halfway and no longer want to be an adventurer, which would be a real hassle. Better to get her into the team and sign a 100-year contract. The penalty for breaching the contract should be 1 million gold coins to prevent Monica from backing out. It wasn't that Linda was heartless. In Monica's personal storyline, there had been instances where she was too scared to venture into the mystic realm. In the comparatively spacious carriage, the back seat was covered with a cool bamboo cushion. Monica sat in the corner on the left, her little hand tightly clutching Linda's clothes, resolutely preventing the stranger, Kaphne, from sitting beside her. Kaphne swept a glance toward Monica and said quietly, "Did that child wash?" Linda immediately understood. Monica had recently been frightened to the point of wetting herself by a whipping sound. But as far as Linda knew, she seemed to have only wiped with some paper, and her water bill hadn't been paid for 2 months. Even though Monica lived in a rather sloppy manner, her arms and legs that were exposed outside seemed quite clean. Team leader, Monica isn't dirty, she said faintly through the cardboard box, and suddenly lifted the hem of her clothes to reveal her flat belly, spotless, and without an ounce of excess fat. Monica said timidly, "Team leader can check Monica." A question mark appeared above Linda's head. Could it be that 3 years of isolation had stupefied Monica, leaving her without any hint of caution around an old mage? Even so, Linda's eyes uncontrollably drifted upwards, noticing Monica's round and cute belly button on her belly. Moving past her belly, further up, there was only a glimpse of something protruding. The glimpse of the tip of the iceberg that was revealed had a terrifying initial diameter, such that it could not be seen anywhere except in another world, where girls with such explosively attractive figures existed. Linda found it fascinating, but he had to straighten out Monica's thinking. Flaunting your belly in a public place? Aren't you afraid of being targeted by passing beastmen? Falling into the hands of beastmen can lead to all sorts of incidents. He knocked on the cardboard box. Monica understands. The girl, clutching the head in the box, said softly, "It's not a public place when I'm with the captain, so it should be okay, right?" Linda frowned and pondered for a long while. Well, there shouldn't be any issues. .net. Half an hour later, Adventurers Guild in the inner city district of Red Heart City. The place was bustling, with people brushing shoulders constantly. As a city larger than White Dove City, Red Heart City had many more adventurers. Even in the sweltering heat of noon, the area around the notice board at the entrance was still crowded with people, the noise akin to a bustling, discounted market. A group of inked armed beastmen, clearly up to no good, were squatting by the roadside, whistling at the attractive female adventurers, and even approaching those who were alone to chat them up. "Hey, pretty girl, old donkey grandpa here is really something. Want to grab lunch together?" Monica saw an elf girl with pointed ears surrounded by 5 or 6 beastmen looking distressed and immediately imagined her own situation, causing her legs to tremble, unable to walk. She tugged at the hem of Linda's clothes and said weakly, "Lo, Lord Captain, Monica doesn't want to be an adventurer anymore. Perhaps I should just go to your room and dust." The ambitions she had a minute ago had vanished completely. Linda, who had anticipated this, put on a stern face. "Captain, I do not appreciate team members who give up halfway. Keep this up, and I might just leave you behind." "Woo-woo, Lord Captain, don't leave Monica behind." Monica wants to be an adventurer again," the girl in the box said in a panic. "That's my excellent team member," Linda said with a smile. The group entered the hall of the Adventurers Guild. As they queued, many people looked curiously at the peculiar girl wearing a cardboard box on her head. A beast man with a hound's head mocked. "Where's this fool from? Probably too ugly to show her face." Laughter erupted amongst the crowd. Monica's attire was indeed bizarre, carrying an old-fashioned large bundle and wearing a cardboard box. The hound man, with his keen sense of smell, could even detect a faint urine odor on her. "Still wetting your pants at this age? Ha ha!" The hound man laughed aloud. Already insecure, Monica couldn't raise her head upon hearing these words. Linda narrowed his eyes and gripped Monica's trembling hand tightly, his gaze coolly fixed on the beast man. "Either shut your mouth or never venture outdoors again." The corners of the hound man's mouth twitched, originally intent on provoking further, but upon seeing Linda's cold gaze that seemed to stare at a dead man, an inexplicable chill ran through him, and goosebumps rose on his arms. "Mose, don't cause unnecessary trouble," said a half-beastman with thick eyebrows and rhinoceros horns, frowning. "Tis." The hound man named Mose glared at Linda, crossed his arms, and queued without further comments. Linda also withdrew his gaze. His experiences after leaving Snow Goose had taught him many lessons, the main one being retreating sometimes completely useless, especially when facing beastmen who prey on the weak but fear the strong. "Lord Captain, thank you," Monica said as she stretched her hand into the box and wiped the corner of her eye. "Don't worry about what others think of you. As long as the captain thinks you're a good teammate, that's enough." Linda patted her shoulder. Monica broke into a smile and nodded vigorously. "Yes." After queuing for about half an hour, it was finally the turn for Linda and the others. While Monica was filling out the form, Linda watched silently. The neat and tidy small print on the form was clear at a glance. Name, Monica * Lady. Level, 15. Occupation, Earth Mage. Earth Mage, one of the popular occupations on Mystic Continent, possessed a large number of area attack type skills. Combined with Monica's inherent skill Glass Cannon, she was exceptional at clearing minor monsters. Linda pondered, his Venomagic Sphere was a strong single-target output, suitable for fighting bosses and with Monica clearing the minor monsters on the path. With this, the outline of an adventure squad had formed. A ding-dong sound echoed in his mind, and a system prompt appeared. Squad module loading. Current progress 1%. Estimated remaining time 12 hours until activation. In 12 hours, it would be deep into the night. Linda estimated that by then, he would have returned to White Dove City. You, the Beast Man, don't you watch where you're walking? I'm sorry, sir. As Linda and his group were heading outside, there was a disturbance at the door. A hound man named Mose had bumped into a tall, middle-aged elf with golden hair. The elf's face was covered with frost, and he disdainfully wiped his clothes while his eyes openly showed contempt for the Beast Man. Hey, this Beast Man is in big trouble now. Not a good idea to mess with Elf Cow. I heard his team just passed the 11th floor of the World Tree yesterday. Their levels reached 22. Cow has firmly established himself in the rock-level squad now. When can I become a level 20 adventurer? The surrounding buzzed with chatter. Linda looked at the elf named Cow. In every city, there were some well-known adventurers, like Eye of Wisdom, Bursting Flames, and Frost Swordsman in White Dove City. Anyone who reached level 20 could make a certain name for themselves among adventurers. Against the timid Monica, Mose was arrogantly invincible, but facing Cow, a level 22, he was as meek as a cowed dog, with his tail trembling between his legs. Linda looked at Mose's humble demeanor, his mind filled with thoughts. He had never found level 20 adventurers intimidating because the circles he had been in were basically of this level, and he was also on good terms with Aiko. Thus, after his downfall, no one had bothered him. It wouldn't work in Red Heart City, though, as no one there knew him. In his 3 days in Red Heart City, Lind had already faced 3 challenges: the Minotaur, Luke, and just now Mose. If he were just an ordinary level 8 adventurer, he couldn't have possibly smoothly stood here with Monica and the others. The worst outcome would have been Kaphne being kidnapped by the Minotaur upon entering the city, and Monica ending up in a tavern through Luke. I must reach level 20 quickly and advance in occupation. The scene of the survival of the fittest unfolding before him made Lin realize the importance of levels. His teammates were beautiful girls. Only with a strong enough captain could he protect them. As he was deep in thought, the surrounding chatter suddenly ceased. The level 22 elf Cow, upon seeing someone walking towards the Adventurers Guild, changed his face drastically, immediately forgave the Beastman Mose, and panic-strickenly retreated to one side. In no time, the crowded hall had cleared to make a straight, wide path. Tap, tap, tap. This was the sound of heavy, iron-plated boots striking the ground. The approaching footsteps were steady and forceful, creating a sense of oppression in the air that felt almost tangible, bearing down upon those present. This behavior was undoubtedly extremely arrogant, recklessly releasing an aura that seemed to say to the adventurers, "I am here, make way." But it has to be said, the newcomer had the confidence to act this way. Linda and his group were among the crowd when Kaphne, shocked, exclaimed, "Impressive. Must be level 30. Level 30, star-ranked adventurer." In White Dove City, perhaps only members of the White Dove Adventure Group possessed this rank. Linda looked toward the entrance of the hall with a solemn expression. The entrant was a young man with fiery red hair tied in a ponytail, his eyes as sharp as daggers, and a thin sword hanging at his waist. The thin sword's hilt was like golden craftsmanship, embedded in the center with a blood-red demon core, its strong magical fluctuations palpable to Lind even from 10 meters away. A short adventurer beside them muttered, "The second young master of the Mundalas, Dawn. What's he doing here? The Scarlet Adventure Group should have someone designated to liaise, right? The guild members are ready at his house at all times." The Scarlet Adventure Group? Linda raised his eyebrows in surprise. Leah's father, known as the Bloody Baron, led that very team, the Scarlet Adventure Group. The last he had heard of this adventure group was 2 years ago. Back then, the Scarlet Adventure Group had already reached the 17th floor and was rated as Steel level. Now, after 2 years, they might be very close to reaching the 20th floor Sunrise level adventure group. As the second young master of the Mundalas and a member of the Scarlet Adventure Group, Dawn's strength and status were unmatched in Red Heart City. The red-haired, star-ranked adventurer entered the hall, glancing around with furrowed brows, suddenly, as if he had spotted something. He strode with purpose toward Linda's side. Linda could feel that as soon as their eyes met, the other had an eye-founded expression. What did the second young master of the Mundalas want with him? Could it be because of Leah? Linda's expression shifted slightly. He remembered that Leah's relationship with her family was not good, often speaking of her half-brother with a hostile attitude. The surrounding crowd instantly dispersed. You're Linda, right? Dawn's expression was indifferent, his tone carrying an innate arrogance as he got straight to the point. The third lady of the Mundalas invites you to visit. The third lady? Linda puzzled. You should know her, Lady Bellini, Leah's mother. A flicker of impatience flashed across Dawn's face as he grudgingly explained. The third lady heard you were in Red Heart City. At her request, I am to bring you to the Mundalas for a visit. If you understand, follow me. An invitation to visit with such an attitude? Linda remained expressionless. Did Lady Bellini ask you to forcibly take guests away? Dawn pondered before replying. She did not say that. The third lady merely mentioned that if you have time, please come over. She wants to see you. Well, sorry, I don't have time right now, Linda shrugged. As you can see, I need to return to White Dove City with the new team members. The phrase new team members conveyed a vast amount of information. He clearly saw Dawn's expression change. It seemed that the Mundalas did not yet know that he and Leah had parted ways. Dawn snorted, muttering to himself, that little sister of mine, truly useless, can't even keep people. Then, looking at Linda, he continued, whatever your relation with Leah, it's none of my business. Such a useless family waste might as well die in White Dove City. But the third lady wishes for you to visit. So, even if you don't have leisure time, you must find some. The carriage is outside. It won't delay you for long. Since her title is Eye of Wisdom, you should know what to do, right? Lead the way. Linda followed him. Opposing the Mundalas in Red Heart City was clearly not wise. Team leader, are you all right? That man, he seemed fierce, Monica said, her petite frame trembling slightly. Linda thought for a moment and said, it's nothing serious. Their invite came from Lady Bellini, who was knowledgeable and sensible, much stronger than the capricious young Lady Bilia. The three followed Dawn and got into the carriage. About 10 minutes later, they arrived at a sprawling estate. In front of them was a huge wrought iron gate with delicate carvings, flanked by two warriors in gleaming armor, holding spears. Dawn nodded at them, and the two warriors pushed the gates open. A clean white stone path led directly to the mansion ahead. When you meet the third lady later, don't mention your and Leah's matter for now. Walking in front, Dawn suddenly spoke up. Why? Linda didn't agree immediately, his brows furrowing as he countered. Dawn shook his head. The third lady was displaced in her early years and unfortunately encountered a witch who harmed her, weakening her body progressively. She doesn't have many days left. The Lord's intention is to fulfill her requests as much as possible. With an implied look at Linda, he added, that's why you were invited. Ugh, never mind. You coming here is a small favor the Mundalas owe you, and the matter with Luke is settled. A small favor, clearly calculated. Linda mused internally. Thinking back, no wonder he always felt this lady was weak and frail during their previous encounters. So there was this hidden story. Linda considered his purifying power and sighed inwardly. His own hands could only purify a witch. For those harmed by a witch, it probably wouldn't work. Of course, this was just a guess. After all, he couldn't exactly shove his hand into Lady Bellini to see if it could touch the contamination. Willing but powerless. I'll stay here. You go in. Dawn led them into the mansion and to a room on the second floor. Excuse me, Linda knocked on the door. Come in. A gentle and mature female voice came from inside the room. Just by hearing the voice, you could tell she was a very voluptuous and lovely lady. Before entering, Linda took the oversized backpack off Monica's back, or else entering wouldn't have been easy. Pushing open the door, the three entered single file. The enticing aroma of food, wafted over as Kaphne and Monica's eyes lit up. Turning a corner, they saw a long table laden with delicious dishes. At the head of the table, on a wicker chair, sat a lady with golden curly hair. This lady wore a gracious and elegant smile. Her large eyes seemed to contain pools of spring water. Her plump lips were coated with lipstick, and her cheeks sported a touch of pink blush. It appeared she had dressed up meticulously to welcome Linda, their guest. Such formality. The displeasure Linda felt at being coerced to come dissipated somewhat. A lady married to the leader of a steel-level adventure group, who dressed up elaborately for him. A poor adventure team leader from White Dove City, indeed, touched the mark with her gesture.